Flying sucks, period. And today, my plane's about to dive headfirst into the Bermuda Triangle and just vanish. In 6 hours, I'm gonna wake up hogtied on some beach on an island that ain't even on the map. But hey, right this second, I'm totally clueless. I'm just chilling in line at gate D47 in Miami, juggling a trash cup of coffee and a chill pill. All I want is for this metal bird to land. Name's Kenta, 31. I code for some massive Japanese firm, and I just wasted 2 weeks in Florida schooling Americans on why our tech wipes the floor with theirs. Gig's done, laptops packed, suit stowed, ticket says Miami to Tokyo, biz class, one stop. 14 hours of pure misery. 14 hours. I'm chanting that like a mantra. 14 hours till I'm back in my own bed. 14 hours, then I'm ghosting the whole world for 2 weeks. Door locked, phone off. That's the only vibe that matters. I wash down the pill with that sludge coffee. My doc prescribed these 3 years ago after I lost my mind on a flight to Osaka. Doc said one for takeoff, another if things get bumpy. I always pop both. Secret's safe with me. Line moves. Ticket scanned. Strolling down the jet bridge, that fuel smell hits me, and my stomach does that familiar, nasty little flip. Same old lies I tell myself every single time. Stats don't lie. You're safer here than in a car. Pilots want to stay alive too. Found my spot. Row 4, window seat. Bag goes up. I drop into the seat and half shut the shade because looking at the wing is a total nope. Noise-canceling cans on, eyes shut. I'm out before the safety video even boots up. Then this tiny, ash-haired grandma plops down next to me, clutching a rosary that's clearly seen some serious mileage. She gives me that classic sweet granny grin, and before I can play dead, she's already chatting my ear off. She's heading to Tokyo to see her sister. Old lady's 91, hasn't been in the air for 12 years. Her grandson hooked her up with the ticket online. Web stuff confuses her, but he's such a good boy. Then she asks if I knew flying used to be a straight-up miracle. People used to wear suits, now it's all pajamas. She cracks up at her own joke while those beads click-clack away. I do the smile and nod routine, jam the headphones back on, and pray for sleep. Engines roar. We're rolling. Lift off. The meds kick in right as we clear the runway, and everything goes delightfully fuzzy. I'm basically out or close enough to it. That weird sleep where you can still hear the engines, thank God, because noise means we're still flying. 4 hours in, the plane starts shaking. Standard turbulence at first. Buckle up, trays away. No big deal. The crew does that fake don't worry smile while checking belts. My eyes snap open. I'm staring at the sign. I crank my belt tighter. Habits, right? Then the vibration gets nasty. A cart goes rogue, and a stewardess dives for it. Behind me, some dude is dropping F-bombs. Then the plane drops. Like stomach in your throat, we're all gonna die kind of drop. Screams everywhere. The crew stops the everything's fine act and power walks back to their seats. Captain's on the mic. He sounds calm, but it's that creepy, rehearsed kind of calm. Like he's reading a script from some disaster sim. He mentions unusual instrument readings. Sketchy. Says he's switching altitude. Don't be alarmed. Yeah, right. Good luck with that. I peek outside. The sky is straight up broken. Should be bright afternoon, right? Wrong. It's turning gray, then pitch dark, then this gross green I've never seen. And the clouds? They're acting weird. They're swirling in this massive spiral, like a drain, and we're sitting right in the middle of the toilet bowl. Grandma's silent now. She's staring past me, fingers flying over those beads so fast they're clicking like a machine gun. She crosses herself once, then again, 3 times, whispering something low. Bermuda. I've heard that name before, obviously. Everyone knows the shorts, the triangle, the jokes about ghost ships. That History Channel special I saw when I was 12, but I've never heard it said like that. Not like a prayer for someone who's already dead. Now, I'm officially terrified. Then the plane drops again way harder. The overhead bins straight up explode. Bags are raining on people's skulls. Some random laptop just zooms past my feet. Yellow masks drop from the roof like creepy dead jellyfish on strings. I'm wearing mine. Don't even remember grabbing it. My hands just handled it. Shout out to those safety videos I always ignored. Then the sky goes neon green. Not lightning. Real lightning is white, fast, then poof. This green stuff, it stays. This green is totally wrong, like it doesn't belong on this planet. It lights up the whole cabin so I can see everyone's terrified faces, especially this old lady clutching her rosary like a shield. Then the nose dips and we're just plummeting. My body's hovering against the belt. My backpack literally smacks the ceiling above me. Someone screaming right in my ear. Could be the old lady. Could be me. Honestly, no clue. The engines are making a sound. A sound engines should definitely never make. Lights flicker, go red, then total darkness. Then, the big hit. Something massive, wet, and very final. After that, it's just a whole lot of nothing for a while. When I finally come to, it's the heat first. Sun's hitting my face so hard it turns the inside of my eyelids pink. Next thing is the sound waves, slow and steady. The third thing? Salt. Flowers. Something sweet I can't quite put a name to. I open my eyes and yup, I'm flat on my back on a beach. The sand feels like actual flour under my palms. The sky is this crazy blue you only see on filtered-to-death postcards. Palm trees are leaning over me just a few meters away. But something's off. The leaves? Totally the wrong shape. Way too wide. They've got these dark veins that look almost like a math problem, super geometric. I don't recognize these from any biology textbook I've ever actually opened. And I've opened plenty. I try to sit up. The world does a literal somersault. I flop back down. Round 2. Slower this time I actually manage to sit. Head's killing me. My left side is screaming from the impact. I poke at my ribs through my shirt. Just bruised. Nothing snapped. Arms work. Legs work. I'm in one piece, which is frankly statistically impossible. I scan the place. One way is just endless white sand stretching to forever. The other way? Same deal. Behind me is this massive wall of jungle, starting 20 meters from the water. Super dense and quiet. I check the ocean. Nothing. No plane bits. No oil. No floating seat cushions or bodies. Just clean little waves acting like everything's chill. Yo! I yell. My voice sounds like it went through a blender. Haven't used it in ages. Who knows how many hours it's been. Hey, anyone? Zero response. Just the waves. Some invisible bird makes a noise that isn't really bird-like. I start shouting for people I don't even know. Captain? Anyone from the flight? I'm screaming in English, then Japanese. I go until my throat feels like I swallowed glass. I just sit there with my head between my knees, trying to block out the image of that old lady. I'm alive. Just me. That much is super obvious within the first hour. I force myself to stand. I start walking and find a stream trickling out of the trees. Water's running over these little stones. I drink from my hands until my stomach literally aches. Best water I've ever had, hands down. There's a low bush nearby with these tiny red berries on it. I stare at them. Look, I'm no survival expert. I have zero clue which berries will kill me. But I haven't eaten since the plane was in the air. If I don't eat now, I'm gonna be too weak to move tomorrow. I grab one and bite it in half. I wait. Nothing happens. I finish the rest. Still nothing. I scarf down 10 more. They're sweet, kinda sour, and basically the best thing ever, probably because I'm starving. The sun starts dipping. The light over the water is gorgeous, which would be cool if I wasn't totally terrified. I make a deal with myself while sitting there with berry juice all over my fingers. Here's the plan. Sleep here tonight. Tomorrow morning, I walk the beach for half a day in one direction. If I hit a dead end, I'll double back and try the other way. If I'm still stuck by sunset, I'm heading into the jungle. I know how this ends if I just sit here. Nobody's coming. That plane crashed somewhere that probably isn't even on the same map as the rest of the world. If I kick the bucket on this island, it won't be because the island got me. It'll be because I gave up. I spot a huge root at the jungle's edge, half buried in sand, with a little hollow underneath it. It's just big enough to squeeze into. I crawl inside and pull my knees to my chest. I'm freezing even though the air is warm. I have no idea I'm being watched. No clue that tiny eyes have been glued to me since the second I first started yelling. Tiny feet are creeping through the leaves right above the roots. Those little snitches have already bolted back through the brush. They're racing through the jungle to their micro-king in his pint-sized city to tell him some massive titan just fell out of the sky. I shut my eyes. Tomorrow, I'll figure this mess out. But right now, I definitely won't be moving at all. I wake up because the sun is blasting my face. That's the first sign things are weird. Second thing, my body is totally glitching. I can't move. Not like when your leg falls asleep and feels all fuzzy. It isn't that groggy, half-dreaming state either. I mean, my arms are literally stapled to the sand like a science project. My legs are pinned. My chest is pinned. Even my freaking forehead is stuck. Total lockdown. There's something across my throat light, but tight enough to feel every time I swallow. I peel my eyes open. Same sky. That impossible blue horizon is still there. But right in my face, a massive tangled web. Thousands of gossamer threads, thin as hair, are woven over every inch of me like some intense, full-body spider trap. They go from my wrists into the sand, across my ribs, and around my ankles. Individually, these strings are basically nothing flimsy as dental floss. I could snap one with a pinky, but there are 10,000. And then I see them, tiny people strolling across me. They're like 4 centimeters tall, rocking micro boots, little belts, and sharp spears. They're hiking over my chest like I'm some scenic hill. Some are armored up, others wear red coats with poppy seed-sized buttons. They're chatting in voices that sound exactly like a bunch of angry mosquitoes. I can almost catch the words like some forgotten dialect from a fever dream. One dude is literally camping on my sternum. He's wearing a shiny helmet that's blinding in the morning sun. He sees my eyes pop open, levels his spear, and screams a bird shriek. Freeze, behemoth, the king is on his way and he is going to decide your fate. For a heartbeat, my brain screams, get up, I just want to swipe these gnats off my chest and bolt for the trees. My survival instinct is going nuclear right now. The inner beast is howling louder than I've ever heard it before. I stay still because my inner math nerd is crunching the numbers. I know these threads will snap like dry twigs. One decent flex and I'm out. But those little guys on my chest, they won't just slide off the side. To a dude the size of a fingernail, being tossed is basically like falling off a 40-story skyscraper. I'd squash 10 of them just by sitting up. Standing, a massacre. Running, that's basically a full-on tiny person apocalypse. And then their boss, this king guy and his whole tiny squad, they'll only know one thing about me forever, that the sky giant is a cold-blooded killer who slaughters little people the second he wakes up. Keep the threads intact. Listen, I force myself to breathe super slow. I barely let my lungs expand so the guards don't trip and fall off. Honestly, I've never been this obsessed with my own breathing. Shiny helmet guy sees I'm not thrashing and chills out a bit. He barks some order in his weird tongue to the rest. They start doing military drills on me. 2 scouts climb my chin, staring into my face like I'm some uncharted territory. One brave idiot tries to poke his toothpick spear into my cheek just to see if it actually goes in. Feels like a bug bite. I don't flinch. He looks totally bummed. Suddenly, I hear music, puny little trumpets blaring, drums the size of thimbles. And beneath that noise, a sound I can't quite place at first. Marching. Hundreds of tiny feet hitting the ground in sync, approaching from the trees behind my skull where I can't look. The whole parade marches into view from the left. It's easily the most gorgeous and stupidly hilarious thing I've ever witnessed. A line of red-coated soldiers with brass helmets and flags flying, plus guys riding mini lizard monsters on the sides. Right in the center, 8 guys are lugging a fancy carriage draped in red velvet and gold trim. The carriers are in perfect sync. Then the whole squad stops right next to my head. I feel the vibration of them stopping all at once, a tiny thud in the sand. They set the carriage down and a figure emerges. This guy is ancient, even for a thumb-sized human. Long white beard, red robe with fur, and a blinding gold crown. He struts across my cheek, staring up at me. I can hear his little boots crunching and his shallow breathing. He stops by my ear and clears his throat with a self-important sound. Then he talks. His voice is high but sharp, like he's used to giving orders. Yo, Giant, what is your purpose here? Are you a spy for the dark side of this island? You here to wreck us? Talk. Your answer determines if you live or if I tell my boys to dump flaming oil into your eyeballs. Total king vibes. This dude talks like he owns the place. Total royal vibes. But honestly, I can hear his voice shaking behind all that I am the boss energy. It is faint. But I know that vibe because I have been there total pre-flight panic mode. This guy is straight up petrified of me. He is way more shook than I am, which is saying something. Honestly, standing here is probably the gutsiest move he has ever pulled, and he is doing it right by my head. I do not laugh, though that would be a total disaster. I just cut my eyes toward him. I give him the side eye. I keep my voice low and super slow, as gentle as a human can possibly sound. I am Kenta, I tell him. I am nobody's servant. I literally fell out of the clouds when my ride crashed and burned. Everyone else, they did not make it. No idea where I am at. I am not looking for trouble. His eyes go wide, total shock that I actually understand what he is saying. Or maybe he did not expect me to talk back. He plays it cool though, straightens up. You speak our language, he says. I speak a bunch of languages, I tell him, which is totally fake. I won't even try explaining how I understand him, because I don't get it either. I am just a guy from a place way out. I was just trying to get home. The storm wrecked my plane and yeeted me onto your sand. You are no man, the king says. Real men are only this tall. He holds his tiny hand up to his shoulder. You are a giant. Back home, I tell him, everyone is exactly my size. He chews on that for a minute. I can tell he is debating if I am legit or not. Finally, he just tables that for later. So what is your angle, Giant Kenta? That is the moment right there. I can feel the shift. I have sat through enough boring office meetings to know exactly what it looks like when a real deal is finally on the table. Never thought I would be hustling while tied up on a beach, though. I need grub and a spot to crash. Just the basics. I won't raid your pantry. I will catch my own fish and hunt in the woods. I just need to know which spots on this island are total death traps. Plus, I need a better chill spot than this sandy beach. In exchange, I will have your back. Anything a guy my size can pull off, I am in. I have got the muscle and I am not a moron. I can carry stuff you guys cannot even budge. That is the pitch. The king tilts his head, totally doing the math in his skull. I watch his tiny face process the whole thing. This guy is no chump. He is that specific kind of OG who has been ruling forever, making big moves, and he has definitely been scammed a few times along the way. When I am done, he throws a total curveball. He actually smiles at me. It is this thin, sketchy-looking grin like he is up to something. We need help, Giant Kenta. And we need it right now. We have got beef with an enemy huge to us, anyway. They have been wrecking us for 300 years. My generals say it is game over this year. He stops. Just lets that heavy news sit there right in front of my face. We have asked for a lot. We never asked for a giant. But you are here, and a smart leader does not turn down a serious upgrade like you. Save the villain talk for later, I tell him. Just cut me loose right now. I am not gonna bolt. I won't squish anyone. Real talk. If I wanted to bust out of these strings, I would have done it the second I woke up. He gives me a long look. Then he turns and snaps an order to the captain with the shiny, bright helmet. The captain does a sharp salute and starts barking at everyone. Tiny soldiers start scurrying across me in perfect little lines. I feel these tiny little snips as they cut through hundreds of strings, starting from my head down. I stay still as a statue. Once they snip the last strings on my legs, the captain yells again and every soldier scrambles back down to the sand. They line up next to the king. They are all staring up at me, and I can see they are all sharing the exact same thought. Here goes nothing. I sit up super slow. You know, like when you are trying not to wake up a sleeping cat. The sand moves under my weight and the guards near my legs flinch and jump back. I get my balance. Then I stand. I have stood up 1,000,000 times before, but I have never done it and felt everyone on earth literally hold their breath at once. The king does not even reach my knee. The captain? He is basically an ankle biter from up here. The whole fancy parade, the carriage, the guys carrying it, the horses, the flags, it is all between my feet and my waist. They are craning their necks all the way back. The king accidentally stumbles back a step. His crown starts sliding off his head. He tries to grab it, but he is too slow. The crown takes a tumble into the sand. He does not even move to grab it. This one guard in the front row drops his spear, rolls his eyes back, and just passes out in the sand. Total heap. His buddies grab him and drag him away without once looking away from me. Man, I did not want this. I did not mean to freak them out. I drop down to my knees slowly, like super slow. The sand shifts in big waves under me and a couple of guards almost wipe out. I keep going until my face is closer to their level, though closer is still pretty high up from where they are standing. To them, I am still a cliff, just not a whole mountain. I lean in and pinch the king's crown between my thumb and index finger. It's like grabbing a contact lens. Seriously, I just hold it out on my flat palm, waiting for him. He's eyeballing the crown, then me, then the crown again. Dude finally decides to step up onto the very tip of my middle finger. He walks right across my palm, grabs his bling with both tiny hands, and pops it back on his head. He fixes it up and stares me right in the eye. Name's Murdo, he says. I am the king of Lilliputania. Welcome, Kenta. Glad you're in the part of the island where people don't want you dead. Lead on, King Murdo, I whisper, trying not to blow him away. I'm crawling on my hands and knees if that's what it takes. No squashing anyone, I swear on my life. He gives me one last look, turns around, and barks something at his captain. Cue the tiny trumpets all over again. Drums start kicking in, squads back in line. I put my hand on the sand, and he walks off like it's a VIP ramp. So I'm crawling along behind them on all fours, just like I promised, being super careful not to crush a single thing on the way to the city. The road's all skinny and twisty. Clearly, whoever built this place never planned for a literal giant to come strolling through it. I'm crawling. I gave my word and I'm sticking to it. The trumpet guys up front have totally stopped playing and are basically power walking now. They're walking all sideways just so they can keep an eye on me the whole time. Meanwhile, Murdo is chilling in his little carriage again. Shiny Helmet Captain is leading the pack, hand on his sword the whole time like he's actually going to do something. Even though the guy has to know by now that if I wanted him dead, he'd already be toast. We finally clear the trees, and there it is, the city. I just freeze on all fours and stare at it for a long minute. Honestly, it's the most perfect thing I've ever laid eyes on. White stone houses, red tile roofs, all shoebox size. Even the streets are paved with these tiny, perfect little flat stones. There's a square with a legit fountain and tiny towers flying even tinier flags. A 10-centimeter wall wraps around the whole place, complete with gates and arches. Hundreds of people are just living their lives until some lady sees me and starts shrieking. Suddenly, everyone is screaming, diving inside, and slamming their little doors shut. The streets are ghosted in about 10 seconds flat. Don't you dare come inside, Murdo shouts from his little carriage. Seriously, the streets won't hold you. Wasn't planning on it, I tell him. There's this low, grassy hill just outside the city wall on the side facing the ocean. From there, you can see the harbor, the city, and the beach road all at once. I head over there real slow. I'm feeling the ground in front of me so I don't accidentally squash anyone. Then I sit down on the slope of the hill, stretching my legs out toward the surf. I'm being super careful about where I put my feet. I'm even more careful with my hands. They drop the king's carriage right by my left knee. He hops out. He looks at me, then his city, then back at me. I can see the gears turning as he realizes his whole kingdom hasn't been wrecked by my arrival, which, honestly, he was totally sweating until this exact moment. All right, he says, squaring his tiny shoulders. Time to talk about the bad guys. The creeps from the other side of the island. They're called then, a bell goes off. It's tiny, like a little silver chime ringing from somewhere way off in the distance. Easy to miss if you aren't paying attention. But the king? He turns pale as a ghost. Captain Shiny Helmet spins so fast his cape actually snaps. Every soldier on the hill whips around toward the water. No, the king whispers. Not today. The bell keeps ringing. Then another one starts up, deeper this time, from a different tower. Then a third. Now the whole city is just one big alarm. I can hear people screaming inside the walls. Tiny people are pouring out of their houses again, but they aren't running from me this time. They're sprinting for the harbor, grabbing weapons and hitting battle stations like they've done this a million times. I check the horizon. A whole fleet is rounding the southern point. I start counting without even thinking. 20 ships, each one about shoebox sized. Some are huge, with 3 masts and rows of tiny little windows along the sides. Others are smaller, fast ones with single sails. They're all flying the same black flag with a white symbol that takes me a beat to recognize. It's a gear, a toothed wheel, the kind of drawing you'd see on the first page of some engineering book. On the decks of the bigger ships, I spot something that definitely shouldn't be there in a kingdom that uses spears and bows. Cannons, rows of tiny bronze cannons. And the crews handling them, they clearly know exactly what they're doing. Murdo just collapses to his knees right by my leg. This guy's the king. Kings don't kneel to anyone. I can tell by the way the captain makes this weird choking noise. He starts to step forward to stop him, then just freezes. There's nothing he can do. Giant, the king whispers. His voice is totally cracking now, and he's not even trying to hide it anymore. They show up every year. Every single year they burn a village and just sail away. Every time they snatch a few more of us. But this year they are coming for the city itself. I have known it would be this year for 2 seasons. We have 0 defense against their cannons. We have spears. We have arrows. They're going to blast us from the water, our houses will burn, and our people will die. And there is literally nothing we can do about it. And now you are here, and I don't even have time to explain who these creeps are before they slaughter us right in front of you. I am tuning him out now. My eyes are on the lead ship. It is pivoting. It is turning its whole side toward the city. The other ships are following suit in a long, slow arc. Exactly like the stuff I have seen in pirate movies and history documentaries. They are lining up, about to unload a massive broadside right into us. Look, I have never been in a real scrap in my entire life, not even in school. I haven't thrown a punch since I was 9 years old. Some kid named Tomo pushed me off a swing once. I am a software engineer. I write code in a quiet office. I take pills before flights. I'm not the guy who does things like this. But something is happening in my chest anyway. It is definitely not bravery. Let's be real about that. It is not heroism. It is something way simpler and more idiotic. It is just pure rage. I have been on this island for less than a day. I have been awake for barely 1 hour. I've eaten its berries and slept under its trees. And I just had some old dude in a tiny crown crawling all over me, who is now kneeling in the grass and crying because he cannot save his people. And down there are 20 ships full of strangers who decided that today is a good day to burn it all. No, they do not get to do that. Not today. Not while I am watching. I stand up. I head down the hill toward the water. I don't run because if I do, I'll shake the ground and people will fall in the streets. I walk fast and heavy. The king yells something behind me that I do not even hear. I hit the beach. I keep moving. I walk straight into the surf. Cold water hits my ankles, then my knees, then my thighs. The lead ship is about 30 meters out. The fleet is in line. The sailors on the closest deck have finally noticed me. I can see the gunners' faces looking up, jaws dropping. Some captain on the quarterdeck is pointing and freaking out. I do not give them a second to think. I wait until the water is at my belt. I plant my feet in the sand. I am between the fleet and the city. I am right in the line of fire. I spread my arms. The cannons fire. There is a long, thin, crackling sound. 20 cannons firing in a row down the line. Smoke puffs from 20 ports, and here come the balls. They look like peas to me. Each one is a small, hard pea of iron flying through the air at a speed I do not have time to measure. To a normal street, this would be the apocalypse. To my chest, they are something else. The first one slams into my stomach. It is not nothing. I want to say it is nothing. It is not. It hits like a rock thrown hard from an inch away, and the air leaves me in a single grunt. The second hits my shoulder. Skin breaks. The third bounces off my arm. The fourth hits high on my chest, and I taste copper at the back of my throat. The fifth, sixth, seventh, I lose count. They just keep coming. They keep hitting. Each one is a tiny, bright flash of pain in a different spot on my body. I can feel blood, legit blood, trickling down from a cut over my nipple, another on my collarbone, and my hip where a ball caught my shirt. I do not budge. I keep my arms wide. I stay between the fleet and the city. I let them pummel me until the volley is done. Behind me, the city has gone totally silent. Even the bells have stopped. I do not even bother turning around to look. I know what is happening back there. Hundreds of tiny people are standing on the walls and on the rooftops and in the streets. They're watching this giant from the sky stand in the ocean with his arms out, taking the hits meant for them. They are dead silent because nobody has ever stood between them and the sea before. The second volley comes. I take it. Some go past me low or to the side, so I shift my weight. I lean left. I lean right. I catch what I can with the thick of me. A ball clips my ear, I hear the whine and feel hot wetness on my neck. Another one smacks my mouth and I spit it out into the water along with a piece of my own lip. I have stopped being afraid. That is the weirdest part. Pain is loud and everywhere and it is making my hands shake at my sides. But the fear is gone. That got burned out of me somewhere around the first hit. When the second volley finishes, I take a step forward, then another. I am wading out to them. The water is at my belt. Then my knees as the seabed rises up toward where the ships sit. The sailors on the lead deck are no longer firing at me. They are just staring. The gunners have totally stopped reloading. One of them actually dropped his ramrod into the sea. That captain up on the deck is screaming his head off, but honestly, nobody is listening. I finally reach the first ship. I wrap my hand around the side and just lift. It's tiny, totally pathetic. From 30 meters away it looked legit, but up close? Jokes. In my hand, it's basically a high-end toy. I can see every single plank, even the shiny brass bits. Check out the tiny gears on the cannons, actual moving parts. Someone spent way too much time on this craft. Sailors are sliding down the wood, white-knuckling the ropes and masts. A couple of them just lose it and drop. I snag them with my other hand before I even think about it, like catching a glass before it hits the floor. They're shaking in my palm, faces full of this pure, absolute terror that almost looks like peace. They've already written themselves off, but I don't kill them. I just crouch in the waves and hold the boat low. I tilt it real slow and let everyone just slide right into my other hand. It's a literal avalanche of red coats and brass buttons and one tiny, terrified dog, bug-sized. I put them on the beach. I spread my fingers. They roll out onto the sand, totally fine, and just lie there gasping. Then I crush the empty ship like a soda can and toss the scraps. 19 more to go. Some of them try to bolt. I just walk them down. The water doesn't even hit my ribs. They try to blast me from the back as I'm coming. The balls hit. I'm bleeding. I don't stop. Some captains hide in their cabins. I have to pry the doors open with a fingernail and pour them out like bugs. I don't end a single one of them. And honestly, I'm not even trying to be a nice guy. Somewhere deep down, under all that heat, I know if I kill even one on purpose, I become a monster the city can't handle. So I save every last soul. 20 piles on the sand, one per boat. When I'm done, the beach is just covered in these tiny dark shapes. Crying, praying, totally lost. I head back to the shore. Wreckage is everywhere, wood, barrels, and bits of that black gear flag. I hit the sand hard. My legs are officially done. The king is walking through all the prisoners toward me. The captain in the shiny helmet is right behind him with his sword out. But it's not for me. Seems like the whole city is pouring out of the gates now. A slow, quiet wave. King Murdo stops. He's got his mouth open. Can't find the words. I've got nothing for him either. My chest is on fire. I finally look at myself. I'm covered in welts. Dark spots everywhere, the size of quarters, bleeding in 3 places. My lip is wrecked. A piece of my ear is just gone. My shirt is trash. Then I hear a small voice in the common tongue. King Carton is going to hear about you. I look down. One of the prisoners is back on his feet. He's a kid, really, younger than the rest. Black coat, extra shiny buttons. Definitely an officer. He's standing tall by his pile of guys, and he's looking at me without a shred of fear. His eyes are cold. Like he's just seen a math problem and he's already figured out the answer. He'll know by tonight, the kid says, and he's gonna build the thing that kills you. He builds everything. I stare at him for a beat. I lock that face in. Carton, tell him, I say. My mouth tastes like iron and blood. Tell him the giant's here and he's not done. The kid doesn't blink. He just nods like he's taking a memo and sits back down. Murdo finally talks. He's crying. I didn't even notice. Giant Kenta, in the name of every soul here. For every kid sleeping in a bed instead of ash. Later, I tell him. I'm wiped. Tell me later. Right now, Murdo, I need water and bandages, whatever the city's got. Then you tell me everything about Carton, all of it, because next time, it's gonna be worse. I look at my chest, press my hand against the deepest cut. Red flows through my fingers. It's enough. 20 pea-sized balls and I'm a mess. Bruised, bleeding, and totally spent. I just want to crash in the sand. If there were 200 of those things, I'm toast. If Carton sends double the ships, I'm dead. If he sends bigger guns, I'm super dead. I'm not untouchable. I just figured that out. Now I gotta keep it a secret. Murdo, I say again. Spill the tea, Carton. I'm waiting. Then the king starts yapping. By sunset, they finally got me patched up. Took the whole afternoon and basically every scrap of fabric in this tiny town. These bandages, they're just bedsheets stitched together like some giant Frankenstein quilt made of napkins. The local ladies did all the sewing right in the plaza while I sat there like a statue, trying not to freak anyone out. The cuts are clean, but the bruises are nasty, deep purple, and definitely gonna feel like absolute garbage tomorrow. My ear smells like a fancy tea shop, mint and honey. This tiny old lady with white hair and zero fear climbed my shoulder to patch it up herself. When she finished, She gave my neck two little pats and just dipped without saying a single word. Honestly, nicest thing anyone's done for me in years. They moved the fleet prisoners to a pen behind the city wall. 400 Blastorian sailors sitting in tidy little rows like good boys. That kid officer in the black coat? He's in solo lockup, away from the rest. Nobody's talked to him since the beach. Now the sky's turning orange over the water and Murdo's back on my hill. He's alone this time, except for the captain in the shiny bucket hat who hasn't left the king's side since the cannons started popping. Yo, Big Kenta, if you can stand, walk with us. Got something to show you that's too heavy to haul out here. I stand up. SLOWLY. Everything aches in that annoying constant way I guess I just have to live with now. I trail them along the wall, watching my step, until we hit this little tower tucked into the backside of the city. It's a round tower with a tiny wooden door and little windows all the way up. I can see lamps already glowing inside. This is our library, the king says. 300 years of receipts, maps, and island drama, and obviously, I'm too huge to go in, so I just park it and cross my legs. Sitting down, the tower only hits my chest. Murdo nods, and the captain yells an order at the tiny door. Then 4 geezers shuffle out, one by one, lugging scrolls that are basically bigger than they are. Meet the Lilliputanian librarians. They spread the scrolls out on a stone table like they're setting for dinner. They unroll them, but to me, they look like tiny little placemats. The font is microscopic, can't read a damn thing. Well, this is a bust, I think. Then I grab a leaf off a nearby bush nice and flat, with just a little curve to it. I dunk it in the fountain at the base of the tower and catch one fat drop of water right in the curve. I hold it up like a monocle, tilting it just right. Boom, water lens. The librarians look like they forgot how to breathe. I can actually see one guy elbow his buddy through the water drop. Suddenly, I can read it all. The letters are in some weird script I've never seen, but my brain just clicks. It's the same magic translation stuff that happened on the beach this morning. Not even gonna ask why at this point. This island wants me to know its secrets, so I'm taking the win. The king starts talking while I scan the pages. 300 years back, this whole place was one big nation, one king, one people. They called us the Two Hands people because we believed brain and brawn were just two sides of the same coin. Our cities were all on this side. Farms were on the flip side. We'd hop over the mountains every season to trade stuff, get hitched, or bury the fam in the high passes. I scan the scroll while he talks. There's a map. I tilt my leaf lens for a better look. The island is shaped like a kidney bean with a mountain spine. Big star on the west coast for a city. Another star on the east. There are lines connecting them through 3 mountain passes. 300 years ago, the original king kicked the bucket. He had 2 kids. Big bro was Fellow. Philo was a total hippie into the soul, the soil, and making stuff by hand. Very back to nature vibes. The little brother, Markin, he was a total tech bro. He was all about gears, levers, and using machines to crush distance. Both brothers thought the other was an idiot. Both wanted the crown. I flipped the next scroll with one finger. It shows 2 crowns with a huge crack between them. The old dudes in charge couldn't pick a winner, so they did something stupid. They literally cut the country in 2. Fellow took his crew west and started Lilliputania, the old school kingdom. Markin headed east to found Blastoria. That's the land for people who wanted to build stuff the old guys were too scared to touch. For 1 generation, we were tight across the peaks. The next 2, we basically ghosted each other. Generation 3 hits, and Markin's kids build a freaking cannon. Fellow's kids? Nothing. That's when the real beef started. The nerds, the librarians set out these tiny clay lamps on the stone. 300 years, the king whispers. His voice is totally shot now. 300 years of Blastoria flexing with massive ships, bigger guns, and high-tech junk. We're only alive because of the mountains. Those peaks are way too steep for their wagons and too freaking cold for their horses to handle. The only way they can hit us is by sea. Every year, a new fleet rolls up. Every year, they swipe a village. We're shrinking, man. I'm about to ask the obvious question, but something cuts me off. Someone clears their throat right behind me in the weeds. Your Majesty, Giant, if I may. I turn around slowly. There's a woman standing 3 feet behind me on the grass, puffing on a pipe. The pipe is literally the size of a grain of rice. You can barely see the smoke coming off it, but I can smell it sharp and sweet. She's middle-aged for a tiny person, her hair pulled back in a killer-tight braid. Practical clothes, grease all over her cuffs, no sword, no fancy uniform, just work gear. She's looking at me way differently than the librarians. She's staring at me like a gearhead looks at some weird giant engine. Name's Alan. I run the workshops here in Lilliputania. The king called for me when you showed up. I've been watching you since you sat down at this table. I've got one question. Your answer decides if I'm wasting my time or if I move my whole life to your service tomorrow morning. Ask. She pulls the pipe out and points the stem right at me. You from machines, Giant, or are you from nature? I think about it. What's she really getting at? She's not asking if I'm some kind of robot. She's asking which side of the old war I'd be on, Fellow or Markin, soil or gears. I'm from machines, I say. Where I come from, we use machines for basically everything. I'm a builder myself. I build machines that think. I don't use hammers. I use words and rules. But it's still a machine. She sticks the pipe back in her mouth. She nods slowly. Good. Then we actually have something to talk about. Forget the king. Ask me what you really want to know. Ask me about Blastoria. The king will give you the history. I'll give you the math. I just stare at her for a second. Then I ask the question that's been on the tip of my tongue since the beach. Aelin, if Blastoria has guns and ships and 300 years of tech, and Lilliputania only has spears and bows, why haven't they just ended this war already? Why just one fleet a year? Why tiny villages? Why not just bring the whole hammer down at once? Aelin grins around her pipe. It's not a friendly smile. It's the look of someone who's been waiting a long time for someone to finally ask the right thing. Because King Carton is building the big weapon, I don't say a word. I just let her keep going. Carton's been on it for 10 years. Nobody on our side knows what the hell it is. Our spies only know this much. He hits the workshop before dawn every single day and crawls out after dark. No wife, no kids, no heir. He even executed 2 engineers who tried to quit the project. Whatever it is, it's his entire life. We think it's a one-shot war ender. Everything else, the yearly fleets, the burning villages, the cannons from today, it's all a sideshow. It's what your army guys call reconnaissance and force. They aren't even trying to win yet. They're just testing us, mapping out our defenses. They're seeing what we can do, so when the main weapon is ready, Carton knows exactly where to point it. Reconnaissance and force, I repeat. That's the term. Yeah, I read it in some captured manual 2 winters back. That's the one. Today's fleet was the same. 20 ships, just enough to sting, not enough to show his real strength. He sent 20 boats and some young officer in a black coat. That kid in the black coat? He's getting released tonight. I already talked the king into it, by the way. Want to know why? So he carries a report back to Carton. A very specific message for the big guy. Specifically, a report about you. Carton won't believe his eyes when he reads it. He'll read it 3 times just to be sure. He'll grill that officer personally. He'll ask the same questions over and over. Then he'll believe it, crawl back into his shop and stay there. I hate this. I force myself to ask the next thing, even though I already know I'm going to hate the answer. Aelin, how long until that weapon is ready? She pulls the pipe out, looks me dead in the eye. Nobody knows, Giant. Could be a year, could be tomorrow. The hill goes dead quiet. Captain Rain is like a statue next to the king. The librarians at the table have stopped pretending they aren't eavesdropping. Even the lamps seem to be burning a lot more carefully. I let that answer sit there for a long, heavy minute. 1 year or just until tomorrow. Then I finally spit out the truth I've been keeping bottled up since I hit the sand this morning. And the second the words leave my mouth, I get why I was so scared to say them. Words make things real. Alan, your boy King Carton started cooking up this massive weapon 10 years ago, right? But 10 years ago, there wasn't a single giant on this entire island. There has never been a giant here, period. Your own history books don't mention them at all. I literally just read that part. 300 years, and I am the first one to show up. That is also a fact. So, King Carton started building a giant killer 10 years before any giant actually existed. She stays quiet. She doesn't have to say a word, honestly. That silence is her answer. That's not just some random coincidence. I tell her straight up that I do not believe in coincidences that big. Either Carton somehow knew I was coming, or some snitch told him, or this whole island has a secret third side I haven't seen yet that scripts things like plane crashes. There is no fourth option that makes any sense. There just isn't. Alan gives a quiet little nod. I look down at my hands. The bandages on my knuckles are already starting to leak red. I just got to this island this morning. My whole plan was to help these people get some food and a roof, then bounce. I had it all figured out. It was a simple plan. A little bit selfish, a little bit small, and very human. In a month, I was supposed to be on a beach in Tokyo, treating this like a crazy story. I wouldn't even tell anyone because they'd think I was tripping. But that plan is dead. Honestly, the plan died the second I stood up in the waves this afternoon and those cannonballs started hitting me. I just didn't realize it yet. There is no version of this movie where I help these people win one fight and then just walk away. Carton has been prepping for 10 years, and he's prepping for me. I either face it or I leave the people of Lilliputania to get crushed alone. And if they face it alone, they're toasted. I am not going home for a very long time. Maybe not ever. The weird part is, I'm not as freaked out about that as I probably should be. I note that feeling and save it for later. Suddenly, a third voice clears its throat from way down low. I look. Captain Ryan is standing there at attention next to the king. Looks like he's been waiting forever to be noticed. Giant. I am Captain Ryan. I lead what's left of the guard. I watched you in the surf today. I saw what you did for my people. I don't have any of the ladies' questions. I only have one thing to say. Until the day one of us dies, my sword and my men's swords are yours to command. Just tell me where to point them and they'll go. Honestly, I have no idea what to say to that. I just nod. He salutes. He stays right there by the king's side. Then, a fourth voice. This one is even tinier and comes from a place I totally didn't expect. It's coming from the chest pocket of my wrecked shirt. I look down. A tiny face is staring up at me from my pocket. It's a kid, maybe 12 in their years. Dark hair, dirty face, and his eyes are huge. I have zero clue how long he's been chilling in there. Probably the bandaging. A ton of little people were crawling all over me for that. Are you gonna kick me out? No. Who are you anyway? My name's Pip. I don't have a family or anything. I crawled in here because it's warm and I wanted to see what the world looks like from way up here. He stops for a second. He looks kind of embarrassed. I thought you wouldn't notice me until tomorrow. So, what does the world look like from up here, Pip? He really thinks about it, bigger and smaller, both at the same time. I don't laugh. He's 12, and he's serious. And a giant could literally flick him out of a pocket and end his whole life. I look at the king. The king gives that tired old man shrug. Pip is one of ours. He lost his folks to the fleet last year. If he wants to hitch a ride in your pocket, Giant Kenta, that's between you two. Fine, he can stay. But you gotta promise me one thing, Pip. You tell me the second I'm about to do something stupid, because I'm the new guy and I don't know how things work on this island. You're gonna see things from up there that I'm gonna miss. If I'm about to stomp on someone, you scream. If I'm about to say something rude, you tell me. You're my eyes when I'm blind to things. We got a deal? He nods so hard, I think he's gonna fall out of the pocket. Deal. I look up. 4 faces at 4 different heights. An old king who's done pretending. A woman with a pipe who just put a timer on my entire life. A captain who's already handed over his sword. And one kid in my pocket who's gonna tell me when I'm being a moron. It's the smallest army in the world and I just signed up. Aylin, I say tomorrow morning you and I are making a list. Everything you've got. Every scrap of material on this island. Every skill your shops have. Every metal, every grain, every chemical, every bit of dust. Everything. We have 10 years of catching up to do, and Carton isn't going to give us another 10. Al smiles around her pipe. It's a tiny, slow, and totally dangerous look. I've been waiting my whole life, she says, for someone to finally ask me for that list. I don't actually get to start that list with Alan come morning. Morning kicks off with a scream. I'm chilling on my hill outside the walls, half awake, watching the sun hit the water while wondering if these bruises on my ribs look nastier today or just better lit. Pip's already up, perched on my collarbone and snacking on fruit that's basically the size of a tiny peppercorn. The town's waking up below. Doors creak open and the small fish market's bell dings once for the morning rush. Then, that scream, coming from the square, a woman's voice high, short, and totally final. The kind of shriek that doesn't ask for help because the nightmare is already over. I'm up before I can even think. Pip almost faceplants off my shoulder and grabs my shirt collar. 3 massive strides to the wall's edge and I peer down into the tiny streets. Shadows racing across the roofs. Not a cloud, a bird. Wide, fast, way too fast. I look up. The hawk is already pulling out of a dive. It's a dragon to these little guys, but just a standard bird to me. Like something on a fence outside a Florida airport. Brown feathers, yellow eyes, hooked beak. In its talons, a tiny person wearing a little red apron. The figure is still moving. They are still screaming. 2 flaps and that hawk is over the wall and into the trees before I even raise my hand. I'm slow. Way too freaking slow. The square is packed now. Everyone is staring up in silence. A woman is kneeling in a doorway. Another woman holds her. The crowd does that thing where they just accept a fresh tragedy. Lynn starts trekking up my hill from the city. She's got her pipe and a tiny book. She doesn't look up. She already saw it. Every week, she says once she's close enough to hear me. Sometimes more. Today it was Tomar the merchant. He sold cloth in the south corner of the square. Had 2 kids. She points her pipe at the sky. Eyes ahead. We can't fight the sky, she says. Spears don't reach. Arrows reach, but they don't stop the bird. We've lost more to wings than to any war. I'm still staring at the kneeling woman. How many? 41 last year. 38 before. No burials. Nothing left to bury. Names at the Spring Fest. I sit down hard, the ground thumping as Alan steadies herself. Today, we aren't starting a new list, I say. She looks up, raising one eyebrow. Today, we're fixing the sky. I have zero plan when I say it, but 10 seconds later, it hits. Ideas pop up while your mouth is still finishing the sentence. It isn't a clever plan, honestly. No secret lab or 10 years of planning. It's the plan of a guy who read too many bird books as a kid because he was a total nerd. Today, that actually matters. Pip, get me 4 long sticks, giant ones for you from the woodyard. Tell them I will pay them back later today. Pip hops onto Alan's shoulder, she catches him, then he is down on the ground and sprinting away fast. Alan, I need paint, whatever you have. I don't care about color, big jars and brushes, now. Big for you, tiny for me. She blinks. What, are we building giant owls? Scaring hawks with owls? Hawks are terrified of them. Owls hunt them at night, they know it. If they see an owl face, they panic. We're putting owl faces on every approach to this city. Massive ones. Birds see them from a kilometer out and decide to hunt rabbits in the next valley instead. She stares. How do you know this? Read it when I was 9. I am going to be using everything I read between the ages of 9 and 15 for my whole life, feeling that strongly. She makes a small sound that might be a laugh or maybe a curse. She starts walking back, barking orders to everyone. I work for 2 days, doing it all by hand. And that is the specific part I want to remember later on. Not because I'm proud, but because Alan logs it in her book that night. One tiny line in her careful script. The giant works with his hands. Rare for a creature his size. Is it praise or suspicion? I'm not sure. Either way, she logged it. The scarecrows go up first. Pip scouts the perimeter from my shoulder, pointing at high spots. There, not there, wind's wrong, there. I hammer sticks into the dirt myself. Hard. On the crossbars, I hang bark in leather shapes. These massive circles are like oversized dinner plates. I'm slapping owl faces on every single one. 2 big, creepy, yellow eyes. Got a hooked beak right in the center. Dark feathers around the edges. Honestly, the first one I paint is total trash. I'm stuck with a brush thin as a sewing pin. My fingers aren't built for this tiny art crap, so every line is super shaky. Second attempt? Way better. By the 10th one, these owls look mean enough to scare me. By the 20th, I'm actually vibing. Hit number 40 and my back is shot. Eyes are burning. Pip is totally passed out in my pocket. These tiny kids come out of the city with little paint buckets to pitch in. They hit the lower edges I can't reach. Just the parts near the dirt. They're super serious about it. You know how kids get when they think the work actually matters? Not a single kid looks at the sky the whole time. They don't have to anymore. The scarecrows are already on duty. Between the owls, I'm stringing traps. Heavy cord from Aylin's shop. I'm bending saplings down with one hand, locking them tight with tension. Each snare has a grass trigger on a twig. A bird hits the loop. Snap. The tree flies up. The loop catches the bird's body. Now it's just dangling there in the air, held by its own weight. These traps are way too big for songbirds. They're sized for the heavy hitters hawks and massive eagles. Aylin says they come from the North Cliffs. I set up 40 in a wide ring. Marked them with red flags so the locals don't walk in. Back in the city, I'm helping everyone set up bell stations on the roofs. Little bronze bells on tall poles. The kind from the markets. High enough so the watchers can see the whole sky. I told them, you see a shadow? Ring it. The second a bell chimed, every person in the city vanished. We've got awnings over the main streets now, woven mats slung between roofs. I tied the cords myself. Anyone in the square can be undercover in 5 seconds flat. We drilled it 3 times. Third try? 4 seconds. Aylin just grunts, it'll do. On the 3rd morning, the bell finally screams. I'm at the woodyard finishing the last owl on the north side. Pip's just hanging on my shoulder. 1 bell, 2, 3. Then from the north, a snare line goes tight. Sounds like a single heavy pluck of a guitar string. I'm hauling it, but careful learning how to run on this island without crushing any small people. I round the corner of the wall and see it. It's absolutely massive. Definitely not a hawk this time. An eagle the size of a small dog, golden brown. Wings gotta be a meter wide when they're spread out. It's hanging upside down by one leg from my trap, beating its wings against the air like crazy, slamming against the tree trunk, screaming this sound I've never heard a bird make. The whole line is just humming with it. 2 of the scarecrows on that line are down. The wind from those wings just knocked him over. The bird is clawing at the cord on its leg, trying to cut it, almost succeeding. I don't have a weapon, don't need one. I grab its head with my left hand. One hard twist. Saw it once in a survival video at 3 in the morning. There's a small, dry sound. Wings stop. The bird just hangs. I cut it down with my nail, carried it back like a stack of firewood. The square is packed when I hit the gate. News travels way faster than I can walk. Everyone is out. They aren't running back to their houses this time. They're just staring. I drop the eagle in the middle of the square. Step back so they can actually see the thing. This eagle is bigger than 3 of their houses. Those yellow claws, longer than their arms. The beaks bigger than their faces. An old woman walks out of the crowd, maybe 70 in their years, gray, bent over, wearing those black mourning clothes. I recognize the fabric from yesterday. And the day before that, probably the day before that too. I don't know who she lost. Later, I'll find out it was her grandson. She walks straight toward me across the square. Everyone stops to let her pass. She stops right at my left foot. She puts her tiny hands on the side of my big toe, right through the leather of my shoe. She tilts her face up. No tears. She used those up a week ago. I get down low. I put my hand on the ground, palm up. She steps on. I lift her slowly until she's level with my face. She doesn't say a word. She just plants both her small palms flat against my cheek, right on the side of my face. It is exactly how you would hold the face of a son who actually made it home from a war alive. She keeps them there for a long, heavy moment, Then she leans in and gives my thumb right where the meat meets the palm, this tiny dry peck, just once. Then she scoots back to the middle of my hand and waits for the elevator ride down. I let her down easy. Honestly, I do not trust my voice not to crack. The crowd hasn't made a single peep the whole time. King Murdo finally pushes through the pack with Captain Rye lurking at his shoulder. The king just stares at the eagle. He watches the old lady disappear as the crowd parts for her. Then he looks at me. He hawks a loogie, finds his I am the boss voice, and lets it rip. From this day forward, he yells, loud enough for the pigeons on every roof to hear him. The day this monster bird died is the day the sky finally belongs to us. We are going to celebrate it every year. We will mark it for as long as Lilliputania has a calendar to write on. The crowd does that weird, slow-motion build-up thing that crowds do when they are not quite sure if they are allowed to be happy yet. Then some kid lets out a cheer. Then a man joins in. Suddenly, the whole square is popping off, and I am just sitting there on my heels with a dead eagle at my feet. I watch an old woman walk into a future where she is not terrified of the sky. And I am thinking, real clear-headed, that this is the very first thing I have done on this rock that does not come with a price tag. Then I look up past the roofs, past all the screaming fans, way out toward the water on the southern horizon. There is smoke out there. It is not on the water, but way across the strait on the east coast, the side that belongs to the Blastoria jerks. A fat pillar of black smoke rising from someplace I have never even seen before. It is punching straight into the morning sky, a column too thick and too steady to be some simple cooking fire. I spent 2.5 days playing arts and crafts to fix the sky over Lilliputania. While I was painting owls and stringing up cords, Carton has been busy with his own little project over there, something that makes that kind of nasty smoke. Pip is on my shoulder and he sees me looking. He follows my gaze. He sees the smoke. He keeps his beak shut for once. Alan walks up to my boot with her pipe in her mouth and that tiny book tucked under her arm. She does not even look at the eagle. She does not care about the cheering fans. She just stares at that smoke on the horizon, pulls the pipe out of her mouth, and speaks real low, just for me to hear. Carton does not sleep. That giant never quits. I clench my hand into a tight fist at my side. The bandages on my knuckles pull hard against the bruises underneath. Fine. Then we do not sleep either. I tell her, tomorrow, Alan, first thing in the morning. I want the list. Everything you have, every scrap of metal, every grain, every weird chemical, every kind of dust. Tomorrow we start. She just nods once. Tomorrow, she says. Above the city, for the first time in 300 years, the sky is finally empty. For now, when morning hits, Alan shows up at my hill with a small, leather-bound book, a fresh pen the size of an eyelash, and a face that says she hasn't slept a wink. Same here. I have been perched on this hill all night watching that pillar of smoke on the east horizon. It faded when it got dark, but it is back this morning. It is thinner now, but it is still there. Carton is cooking something up across the water, and whatever it is takes a hell of a fire to do. She hops onto the flat stone table I have been using for a desk. She drops the book. She pops the pen. No good morning, no nothing. I am ready, big guy. Tell me what you are. I start wondering how to even kick this off. I have been overthinking the opening since the day before yesterday. I am still not ready, but waiting for ready is going to cost lives. And those lives belong to the people who helped me paint owls. Alan, the first thing I have to say is the part that actually matters the most. So, I am going to butcher the words now and we can make them pretty later. Just listen. She nods. The pen doesn't move yet. I cannot always play human shield between you and those cannons. I did it yesterday. I might do it tomorrow. But one day, I will not be there. One day I will be in the wrong spot, or I will be taking a nap, or I will be too beat up to get up, or Carton will send something my body just cannot stop. On that day, if you do not have your own firepower, Lilliputania is toast. You need your own cannons. Honestly, you needed them yesterday. Aylin drops her pen. Giant. We do not have a clue how to make cannons. I know, I tell her. I am going to teach you, not just the metal tubes themselves. I mean the stuff that goes inside the cannons. The stuff without which a cannon is just a heavy metal pipe. Once you have the magic, the guns will follow. After that, the rest is just geometry. What is inside a cannon? I take a breath. Black powder, I say. 3 ingredients, just 3. That is all the world ever needed to blow itself up. Saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. You just mix them in the right amounts. Dry them, squash them, and you have exactly what Blastoria has been using to wreck your lives for 300 years. Her pen starts flying. I start rattling off the recipe from memory. 75 parts saltpeter, 15 parts charcoal, and 10 parts sulfur. I am not making this up. I am digging this out of a dusty corner of my brain where it has been sitting since I was 13. I bought a cheap paperback about weapons at a used shop in Yokohama because my dad refused to buy it for me. I read that damn book until the cover literally fell off. Seriously, never imagined I'd be standing on some ghost town hill, preaching chemistry to a chick the size of my freaking thumb. Ellen mumbles saltpeter like it's some alien language, then asks what it even is. I tell her it is just white crust. It grows in nasty caves where animals, mostly bats, do their business. Anywhere it is dark and they sleep. Year after year, it builds up on the rocks under them, tastes salty and bitter. Just tell your science nerds not to eat it. Then you need sulfur, bright yellow stuff that smells like straight-up rotten eggs when it burns. Look around hot springs or old volcanoes. Basically anywhere, the ground is boiling and the steam is sketchy. It is in the rocks. Charcoal? Well, we already have that. Every blacksmith has loads of the black stuff. You have the charcoal. The other two? Your alchemists better get hunting. Move it. Send them out today. The mountain caves, the hot springs up north, go. Pay them up front and make it worth their while. They will probably think you have lost your mind. Ellen spends forever writing this down. She finally caps the pen and looks up at me. Big Kenta, if this actually works, this is legit the most valuable page in the whole kingdom. It is, and if I lose the book or catch a stray arrow next week, the kingdom is screwed. It really is. She shoves the book inside her coat right against her chest. Whatever. I am not losing it, and I am definitely not dying next week. She is gone before I can even blink. I spot her way down on the path, already screaming orders at people. Inside of an hour, the local potion makers are hitting the road in squads, packing lanterns and waterproof gear like they are on some epic quest, heading straight for the mountains in the north. I watch the show from my hill. Pip is perched on my shoulder, counting them off. It takes 6 days. 6 days, not one. Those bat caves are the real deal, and they score the saltpeter by day 3. They find way more of it than Ellen's little book even has words for. Then they hit the sulfur jackpot up north on day 5. The charcoal? Ellen handles that herself back at the shops. She has them slow-burning hardwood under dirt mounds, the same way these smiths have been doing it for hundreds of years. By the 6th morning, there are 3 little barrels in the courtyard, lined up perfectly. Her tiny handwriting on the labels says, white, yellow, black. She invites me over to check out the first batch. I am sitting cross-legged outside the courtyard wall, looking down over the edge with my chin basically resting on the roof. Inside, Ellen and 3 of her top crew are grinding the ingredients separately on stone slabs using the exact ratios I gave them. Then they start stirring it all together with a wooden spoon, super slow, super careful. Exactly like I said, no metal allowed. They dump the mix onto a flat rock, just a little dark pile about the size of a coin. Ellen looks up. I nod. She strikes a flint. Snap! A bright flash hits, and then this fat cloud of white smoke just shoots straight up into the air. Next thing I know, Ellen is flat on her back, her pipe is 3 feet away, and her face is totally gray from the eyebrows down. The 3 assistants are all scrambled on the ground too. Nobody is bleeding though. The rock is empty. The pile? Gone. The whole place goes dead silent for about 3 seconds. Then Ellen sits up. She does not even bother wiping the soot off. She grabs her pipe, sticks it back in her mouth without even lighting it, and walks over to the wall. She looks up at me, face still gray. And for the first time since we met, she actually smiles, like a real giant grin. Giant, she says. You just handed us 300 years of history. I just sit there for a second. Quiet. Finally, I say, all right, now we build the cannons. Honestly, the guns were easier than I expected. I start sketching the plans in the dirt. I make them massive, big enough for a whole team of these people to walk along the lines and study the curves. I draw the barrel, the back end, and the little nubs where the whole thing pivots. I draw the wooden base, the tiny wheels, and the rope to catch the kickback. Look, I am no weapons expert. I have never built a gun. But I read all those books when I was a kid, and I remember just enough to be dangerous. Whatever I forget, Ellen just invents on the spot. She has spent her life figuring out how to make tiny, tough stuff out of metal. 9 days later, the foundry spit out the first barrel. It is literally the size of a toothpick. Polished bronze. It is shiny as hell. We take it to the practice field outside the walls to test it. Ellen loads the thing herself. A tiny pinch of powder, some cloth, an iron ball the size of a peppercorn, and more cloth. She threads a thin fuse through the hole and steps back. Captain Rain and 20 of his dudes are hiding behind a dirt wall. I am sitting on the ground on the other side of the field, well out of the way, just watching the show. Ellen drops the match. The tiny gun lets out a bark, just a sharp little crack in the morning air. The kickback slams the carriage back a few inches against the rope. White smoke drifts away, and 40 meters down, 3 wooden planks have a hole in them. Alan got everything ready yesterday. Boom, this heavy-ass iron ball rips through the first plank, then the second, then the third. It just keeps on trucking. 3 freaking planks. Not 1, not 2. Straight up 3. Captain Ryan is the first one to actually open his mouth. Dude's been a total ghost all morning, quiet as a grave. Then he hops over the dirt pile and trudges over to the target. He sticks his pinky into the hole in the first board. Then he does the exact same thing with the second one. He sticks his finger through the third one and spins around to face me, hands still stuck in the wood. His face gets all weird and tense. Honestly, I didn't get it at first. Then it hits me. The guy's actually crying. Not loud or anything. just two quiet streams running down his nose into his beard. This man runs a city guard that literally never catches a wind, they just lose villages every single year he's been in charge. And here I am, having blasted a finger-sized hole through 3 solid planks from 40 meters away. It's been 300 years since anyone in his gear had this kind of firepower to work with. He hits me with a salute, tears and all. Doesn't even wipe his face. "How many of these?" he whispers. "Can we build more?" Alan's standing by the smoking cannon and finally pulls the pipe out of her mouth. "Long as you got the bronze, Captain," she says. Turns out we had way more bronze than I thought, mostly because I'm about to start melting down stuff we weren't supposed to touch. 2 weeks later, everything's popping off. The foundries are cranking out 1 barrel a day, then 2, then 4. Every morning the crews are out there grinding on the practice field. I just hang back, watching and fixing stuff, trying not to get in the way of hands that are way tinier and more skilled than mine for the fiddly bits. While the cannons are getting built, me, Alan, and the harbor master sit down for phase 2, the boats. Look, I'm even less of a ship guy than I am a cannon expert, but I've seen enough pictures and flipped through plenty of books to have some ideas. Plus, I crossed an ocean in a giant metal tube. I know things about boat shapes these shipbuilders never even thought to ask. I start sketching a deeper keel. I add a triangular sail behind the main square one so the ship can actually catch a side breeze, not just wait for the wind to push from behind. I show them how to tack, that zigzag move to go against the wind using my finger in the dirt and 2 little rocks. The harbor master, this old dude with arms like knotted up rope, watches my pebbles move, sits dead still for a minute, then asks me to draw those angles one more time. He asks me 3 times. By the 4th, he's done asking questions. He heads back to the docks and starts ordering lumber I hadn't even seen in their yards before. 3 weeks later, the first new ship is hitting the water. It's faster than anything this place has ever seen. It can cut into the wind way better than those Blastorian ships, too. It's packing 4 of Alan's new cannons on each side. 3 weeks in and we've actually got a legit navy. I should be hyped, right? But I'm not, mostly because of the drama going down at the temples. The temples here are ancient, older than the war with the Blastori, older than the freaking king himself. They're just these little round white stone buildings with green roofs all over the city. And the priests? Those guys are even more ancient than the bricks. They rock these white robes and spend all day preaching the fellow way. Their whole vibe is that the soul of the people belongs to the dirt and the seasons doing things slow and by hand. They've been saying the same thing for 300 years. It's not just some line they use, they actually mean it. And here I am, teaching their kids how to cook up gunpowder. The first round of hate mail arrives the morning of the cannon test. Second one hits that afternoon. By the end of the first week, the foundries are running. The head priest is demanding to see the king. King says fine. I'm invited, but let's be real. I'm not fitting in any throne room. So they do the meeting outside in the courtyard. I'm sitting on the steps with my chin basically resting on the wall, just eavesdropping. This high priest is even more wrinkled than the king. His robe is dragging in the dirt and he's clutching this wooden stick with a tiny bird carved on it. He bows to the king. Never once looks my way, not even when he's talking trash about me. 300 years, he says, and we didn't build a single cannon. We buried our dead in the high passes, sang for the lost at the spring festival, and we stayed true to fellow. Then this giant shows up a month ago. In 1 month, he's filled our foundries with black powder and jammed our harbor full of warships. In 1 month, he's taught our kids that the answer to everything is just blowing stuff up. Your Majesty, I'm begging you kick this giant out. Get rid of the powder. We'll die like we always have, but at least we'll die as ourselves. We aren't trying to be Blastoria with a slightly better wall. The king just sits there on his throne, dead silent. I can see him clearly from where I'm hanging out in the courtyard. He looks tiny in that chair, really old. Alan's right there with me, chewing on her pipe, but she hasn't lit it yet. When the king keeps quiet, she just steps forward without even asking for permission. So she struts across the yard right up to the throne and gives the king that same intense look she gave me yesterday. Look, Your Majesty, no offense, but the holy guy's actually right about one thing. We have been a people of peace. But he is dead wrong about another. Being peaceful next year just means we will all be 6 feet under. I am no priest. I am a guy who builds stuff. Here is the deal. I know for a fact Carton does not give a damn about praying to Philo, and I know he isn't checking our vibe or personality when he is packing his warships for a fight. Plus, the big guy behind that wall just showed me a tube the size of my finger that can blast a hole through 3 thick boards from 40 paces. And when Carton rolls up with his heavy hitters, whatever those weapons are, the only thing stopping us from being erased is how many holes we can put in his boats. A peaceful country, Your Majesty? That is just a fancy name for a graveyard waiting to happen. I would way rather have the priest hate my guts today than be a dead name on next year's festival list. The king just shuts his eyes. He stays like that forever. The priest is waiting. Alan is waiting. I am just hanging on the steps with my chin on the wall. When he finally opens his eyes, he is staring right through the wall, past everyone, looking straight into my soul. Giant Kenta, do you swear that everything you are teaching us is for defense? No empire building? I swear it, Your Majesty. Do you promise that when Blastoria goes down, we won't turn into the monsters we are fighting? I have to chew on that one for a sec. I swear I will do everything I can to keep us from becoming Blastoria, I tell him. But I cannot promise what your grandkids will do. I can only speak for us. Right now, he gives a slow nod. That is the first honest thing I have heard in 20 years, he says. Then he looks at the priest. We keep going. The foundries do not stop. The ships keep building. The temples can talk smack about me all they want, and I will not silence them. But those foundries are staying open. The priest bows so low his head basically hits the dirt. When he stands back up, his eyes are all watery but sharp as hell. And he says, in this weirdly calm voice, then it is on you, Majesty, on your head and the giants. I am going to pray for you both. I will pray that I am the one who is wrong. He turns and leaves, his staff clicking on every single stone. Alan watches him disappear. Then she walks back over to the steps where I am chilling. She climbs up onto my hand, sits on a knuckle, and finally lights her pipe. Hey, giant, she says. We just picked up our second enemy in a month. One across the ocean, one right down the street. I know, I tell her. You ready for 2 fights? Not really, I say. But I am way more ready than I was a month ago, and I will be even better next month. Tomorrow, we start on the engines. She looks at me through a cloud of smoke like I am crazy. The what? The engines, Alan. The stuff inside the ships of the future. The stuff that makes them move without sails. We haven't even finished lesson 2 yet. We have barely started. She doesn't say anything for a bit. She just puffs away, staring at the horizon where Carton's smoke is still rising like a giant black finger flipping us all off. Tomorrow, she says. Tomorrow. Then the buzzing starts before the sun even comes up. I am already awake on the hill. Same routine almost every morning now, sitting there cross-legged, back against the dirt, watching the city wake up in the gray light. Most of the bandages on my chest are gone. My bruises are turning yellow and brown. Pip is crashed out on my collarbone with his face tucked into my neck. Alan is already in the shop, obviously, because she is always in the shop, which is why we have got 11 cannons done, 3 in the molds, and a new ship in the water a week early. I hear this hum and figure it is just one of Alan's grinding wheels starting up, but it is coming from the wrong way, not the workshops. It is coming from the ocean. I think maybe it is a swarm of bugs, but there are no swarms on this island. Then I look up. The eastern sky is full of dots I really did not want to see. Too high to count, maybe. I count anyway. 12. 12 little dark shapes in a V. Maybe 200 meters up, heading straight for us from the strait. Each one has double wings and a tiny propeller spinning on the front. They look like pigeons, but they are biplanes with a white gear painted on the side. Blastoria has freaking airplanes. Pip wakes up because I have stopped breathing normally. I am not calm anymore. Pip, get to the bell tower. Run. Tell them to ring every single bell. Tell them to get the awnings up. Everyone needs to hide. Don't look at the sky. Just get under some stone and stay there. Peace out. Dude literally slides down my chest like a playground slide and hits the deck running. Man's got wheels. He is through the gate and ghosting into the city before I can even find my feet. Right then, Alan bolts out of the workshop looking totally wigged out. She heard that nasty buzzing sound too. She is clutching her pipe like a security blanket, but she is way too stunned to actually smoke it. She looks like she has seen a ghost. Total not in the playbook vibes. Huge planes. We had zero intel. Zilch. We only ever saw boats. Those sneaky jerks let us think it was all about a naval scrap. So we built walls, not roofs. We are wide open. But hey, I am here, plus a million loudmouth bells. That is the plan. Get your butt under some heavy rock with the kids. Do not look. Just hide. Go hide. She does not sass me. She just moves. Then the first bell goes off, then another. Chaos. This whole bell setup we made for the Hawks is finally earning its keep. Exactly like we planned. Suddenly, Open Sky sounds like a crappy name for this project. It was never about the view. It was about making a city vanish in 5 seconds. Time to see if our training actually sticks. Those biplanes are buzzing the harbor now. They are dipping their noses and coming in real low and mean. Lead plane clears the wall and drops this black egg. I am already hauling tail before it even hits. I am sprinting through my own streets, the one rule I never break, trying so hard not to crush everything. I am moving faster than I ever have on this whole rock. Seriously, the bomb is just hanging there in the air. Easy to track, like a pop fly at a ball game. Looks like a little plum to me, but for the folks down there, it is a total block leveler. Bakery, fountain, tower all toast if I miss. I am diving for it. No graceful sliding allowed here. You do not slide when you are building sized. I take a knee in the square and snatch that sucker out. Ow, it is hot. Like, seriously freaking hot. I blank for a second on the heat, then it clicks. Burning fuse. I can feel it fizzing inside. I chuck it. A hard sidearm toss right over the wall and toward the deep harbor water. I throw it like a hot potato. It clears the wall by 10 meters and goes boom midair. No rest for the wicked. Plane number 2 is already dropping its payload right on my head. I cannot even stand up, I just lean into it. I snag it with my right hand like a pro, stings like crazy, but I hang on and hurl it. Over the wall it goes. That is 2 down. Only like 10 more to go. This will suck. Number 3 is coming in hot and wide. I have to lunge for it. My foot clips a roof. I hear tiles crunching. My bad, guys, but I have my hand up and I have snagged the bomb. Catch. Throw. Repeat. The world is just falling metal and me playing the ultimate game of hot potato. 5, 6, 7. I am barely keeping up. I am crawling and scrambling through the streets, chucking bombs into the drink as fast as they come. Every time I catch one, there is this dull thump that echoes right in my head. I can hear the pop of the explosions behind me in the harbor, one after another. My palms smell like burnt hair. 8, 9, 10. Oh crap. Number 10 is weird. Maybe the fuse is short or the timer is junk. Maybe some factory worker messed up the boom juice recipe. Doesn't matter. I grab it, and before I can even wind up, the thing blows up in my palm. Total whiteout. I wake up on my butt in the square. My whole left side is a wall of screeching pain. My left hand is, yeah, let us not look at that. No time. Bomb 11 is incoming. I snag it with my right. My throw is weak because I am shaking like a leaf. It clears the houses and pops over the water. Here comes number 12. Right hand, catch, throw, crack, 13, 14, 15. I am losing count, playing one-handed now. My right hand is a bloody mess from the sharp metal. Every catch just rips the cuts open. My right hand's still in the game though, just slinging away. Honestly, that's plenty. I'm snatching every single one. Last bomb blows over the docks, and now the whole city's a mess of smoke and grit, stinks like burnt powder, and yikes the smell of my own charred skin. Still stuck on my knees in the main square, but the city's standing. Or at least it looks that way, though my ears are ringing like a church bell. Managed not to flatten a single house while I was sprinting through town. Pretty impressive, right? Those biplanes are looping back for round 2. See 'em banking hard over the waves. 12 of them, nose to tail, picking a fresh angle to ruin my day. Only thing is, they're out of bombs. I'm positive because I swiped every single explosive, but those cockpits are packing mounted machine guns. I can literally see the gunners crouching back there. Round 2 is going to be all lead. Bullets are tiny, sure, but they're way faster and there's a ton of them. I can't catch lead. I get up. I tear out through the western gate so fast it probably gave the guards a heart attack. I sprint across the grass on my hill and vanish into the tree line right behind it. I find my prize in like 6 steps, mostly because I'd mentally bookmarked the spot a week ago for a totally different reason. This skinny little pine tree, tall as a dude and straight as an arrow, it's just sitting there on the edge of a clearing. I grab it. My left hand is screaming when I grip the trunk, but I force it shut anyway. I yank. The roots tear out with this nasty, wet ripping sound. Now, I've got myself a club. It's as long as I am and weighs like 6 baseball bats. It looks exactly like a club some little kid would make if that kid was the size of a skyscraper. I sprint back to the hill. Those planes are incoming. I dig my heels into the hilltop, wait for the leader to get close, and then I just swing. The pine tree swings around in this massive arc, and the lead plane flies right into it. There's a sound, something totally alien, unlike any noise I have ever heard. The whole plane just disintegrates mid-air. Wings, engine, and pilot all fly off in different directions. 3 little thumps on the grass later. I'm already moving. I take a crack at number 2 and whiff because that pilot saw the carnage and is already climbing. Clipped the tail of the 3rd one, sent it into a death spiral. Nailed the 4th one dead center. Game over. By the 5th try, their squad is a mess. They aren't even pretending to fly in a line anymore. They're scattering and climbing, desperately trying to get higher than a tree held by some guy on a hill. A few of them finally figured out that I can't actually reach a plane if it's flying high enough above me. 2 planes bail toward the east, putting distance between me and the city, skimming the water and heading for the straits. I let them bolt. Could have swung, maybe missed, but I didn't even try. I just dropped my arms and watched them leave. I actually want them to make it home. I want those guys landing back at the airfield tomorrow morning, stepping out of their cockpits absolutely terrified. I want them to file a report. Then a messenger needs to carry that news to a fortress workshop on the coast where some guy hasn't slept in 10 years and is hunched over a workbench. And I want that dude to read every single word. Carton needs to know we swiped every bomb. I want that man terrified. The other planes? I'm finishing them. 2 swings. 2 more loud cracks. My pine club is totally trashed and splintered. Once the last plane hits, I just drop it. I flop down right there and finally check out my left hand. Could have been worse, I guess, but it's still pretty gnarly. The skin from my palm to my knuckles is just gone. It's just raw red meat under there. But my thumb and fingers still work. Looks like I'm keeping the hand. Not like I'll be using it anytime soon, though. My right hand is its own brand of messed up. The gashes from those bombshells are deep, like 12 of them, and they're bleeding into the grass. My whole right palm looks like I've been trying to catch broken glass. That trembling I felt a bit ago? Yeah, it's still going strong. My ears are still screaming too. Won't stop for a whole day, but I don't realize that quite yet. Pip's hauling tail toward me with Alan right behind. Two dead, giant Pip pants once he gets close. Just two. It was the Halor family. They bolted outside when the first bomb hit, didn't hear the warning bell. We really tried. We tried to grab them, but they were too far gone. Alan reaches my foot and stops. Two, she whispers. Out of 3,000. Two. I don't feel lucky yet. Maybe later. Right now it's just those two. We'll bury them up in the high passes. I promise to give them every honor you guys have. I'll help carry them up. I won't stumble once. Alan just nods, tears streaming down silently. Never seen her cry like that. I'm not about to say anything. We put them in the ground that afternoon. I'm holding this tiny wooden box, both of them inside, just resting on my palm. Their wounds are wrapped in clean cloth, courtesy of that same old healer an hour back. Captain Ryan's out front, leading us up the trail. The whole damn city is trailing behind me. We climb halfway up the mountain passes and tuck the box right where the grandparents are buried. The priests start their chanting. Honestly, I don't know the words. I just bow my head anyway. By the time we head back down, the sun is dipping behind the trees. I grab Alan and Pip and head to where the plane wreckage is rotting on the hill. It's a total mess out there. Engines, wings, metal struts twisted into knots. Found two pilots in black flight suits. I already threw my jacket over them because I didn't want Pip staring at that stuff. I just sit there in the wreckage. Alan, I say, I caught the bombs, every single one except one. That one. It's gone. There are 6 duds sitting in the harbor right now because I chucked them too late and the water killed the fuses. Low tide tomorrow, we're going in to find them. She looks at me like, you gonna bomb the enemy? Hell no. I'm gonna rip them apart. Every screw, every fuse, every speck of powder. We're gonna learn from these jerks. We're figuring out how they fit a bomb inside a plane the size of a freaking bird. Then we build one twice that big. Better wings, better engines, our own design. I'm teaching you tomorrow morning, she says. Giant, you're staying in bed. Both of your hands are total trash. My mouth works fine. I'll lie down, she'll sit by me, and Pip's on pen duty. Lesson 3 starts now. The topic? Engines. She just stares at me for a long time. She finally lights her pipe. Real smoke this time, and her hand is shaking just a tiny bit. Tomorrow, she says. Morning comes after the air raid and I can't use my hands at all. Pip's got the pen ready. Aline's on the stone table with her notebook and pipe, and I'm flat on my back on the grass, hands resting on some fancy cloak the ladies brought me. I start talking shop, engines. Alan, listen up. This is way harder than gunpowder. Gunpowder was just 3 ingredients and a spark. Easy. An engine is 1,000 parts. And they all have to fit perfectly or nothing happens. We'll be here a while. I'm gonna lose you, then find you again a few times today. Just stop me if a word sounds like gibberish. She nods. Pip's holding that pen like a fishing rod over the paper, just waiting for the signal. An engine, I say, is just a way to turn fire into movement. That's the whole point. Everything else is just plumbing. You take some fuel, lock it in a room, and light it on fire. The fire blows up fast. It hits the walls. We make it push against just one wall. That wall's hooked to a rod. The rod spins a wheel. The wheel does the actual work. Boom, engine. Modern engines just do that way faster. Alan's already shaking her head, totally lost. Fire in a box? Fire's hot, dude. The box will melt. Nope, it's metal. Cannon metal. Bronze or iron. The fire's too quick to melt it. We pop the wall, then reset. Dump the smoke. Add more fuel. Do it again hundreds of times a minute. Maybe thousands. Thousands of tiny explosions every minute in a bronze room the size of your thumbnail. That's the magic. She looks at her book, then me, then her empty pipe. Giant. I don't get half of this, but I'm writing it. Good. Keep writing. I talk for 3 straight days. Just laying there on the hill, hands on the cloak, dictating engine parts. Cylinders first. The piston. I'm drawing piston rings in the dirt with my elbow since my hands are toast. Rods, crankshafts. How the up and down vibe turns into a spinny wheel because of the angle of the rod. I had to draw that one 4 times before her face went from, huh, to holy crap. Then comes the spark. How a tiny zap of electricity can blow up fuel vapor. I draw a battery in the dirt. Alan's like, what the heck is a battery? So we spend half a day on batteries. Didn't plan for that. Then valves, intake, and exhaust. The timing of everything, valves, sparks, pistons, it all has to be perfect or the whole thing is junk. Day 2. I send 50 people out into the field with sticks, string, and bags of chalk. I point, they walk. By sunset, there's a massive 4-stroke engine drawn right on the grass. Yo, this blueprint is literally a whole-ass football field. Every tiny line is a marathon for them. The cylinder? That is a full-on city block for these tiny guys. Alan and her top-tier crew spent 3 days trekking across the chalk lines, like they were exploring some massive, creepy-ass building. And by the end of that 3rd day, Alan comes back. Boots totally white and her face finally calm for once. I see the vision. Do not fully get it, but I see the shape. We can build the frame, but the gas? That is the real headache. I cracked it on day 4 with some random memory. Those red berries from when I first washed up on this island. The ones I choked down on the beach because I was starving. They are sweet. Sugar means business. Sugar means, if you do it right, you get booze. And booze burns. When I tell Alan, she just blinks and says, "We make wine with those every harvest." Apparently, the wine is trash. Too strong. Like, how strong? Strong enough the holy priest will not even touch it. Strong enough for the southern temple to clean nasty wounds. Perfect. We are halfway there, and no, we are not drinking it. We are going to boil it in a sealed pot. Catch the steam in a pipe. Turn it back into liquid. That final liquid is the stuff that actually burns. That is your gas. She knows boiling. She gets pipes and cooling. But she does not have a word for it. So I tell her, distillation. Pip scribbles it down, super careful, while Alan talks. Within a week, the shops have built a whole line of tiny copper pots, smaller than a thimble, and the alchemists are working them 24/7. By Sunday, there is one tiny bottle of clear, fire liquid on Alan's desk. To her, a bottle. To me, a drop. For her, an ocean. She lights a drop on a slate. It burns blue. She looks up at me, silent as a grave. She just gives a slow nod. The kind you give when some wild story actually turns out to be legit. The engine takes a full month. I wish I could say it took a week. Books always lie and say, it took a week. When some hero in a story rolls up his sleeves and the motor just works? Real talk. That never happens. It does not start on the 10th try either. We built, broke, and rebuilt that thing 20 times that month. Version 1? The rings are too tight and the whole thing jams in a second. Version 2 is too loose and just hisses. 3 has a bad valve and sprays gas everywhere it should not. 4 has a spark that fires at exactly the wrong time. The engine kicks back and snaps the bronze crankshaft. Alan actually cries a quick, angry sob, then immediately orders a new part cast. Hundreds of tiny craftsmen are on the job now. Blacksmiths, jewelers, because these parts need tiny, steady hands. Students, workers, anyone who can work with hair-thin precision. The whole city has stopped being a city. The whole place is a factory now. Attempt 24 weeks after I first crashed on that hill, and the engine finally starts. It does not roar. It is thimble-sized. Remember? It chitters. Sounds like a mad insect. Fast and steady. The tiny flywheel is spinning so fast, the spokes are just a blur. A thin trail of blue smoke drifts from the tiny port into the courtyard air. The whole crew is standing there in a circle, dead silent, just watching it go. Alan is right there. She watches for maybe 30 seconds. Then her legs just give out. She does not pass out. She just drops. She kneels right there by the buzzing engine, hands flat on the floor, and just stays. She is not praying. I know that because Alan does not do prayer. She is on her knees because she has been standing for a literal month. The second that engine turned over, her body decided it was done. No tears, no big speech. Just a tiny woman on her knees in front of a working engine, pipe in her teeth, hearing a sound her world never knew. I am watching from over the wall, not crying either. Hands are mostly good now. The left one is going to have a gnarly scar for the rest of my life. Fingers are stiff as hell. I do not care. I am watching a bronze engine buzz in a room-sized courtyard. And it hits me. I just flipped the script for this whole civilization just by talking on my back for 3 days. The plane? That is the easy part. No joke. Engines are a total pain, but planes? Those are legit. I'm out here scratching wing shapes in the dirt-thick top, flat bottom. Basic physics, honestly. Then I'm schooling them on how the air going over the top has to travel way further than the air underneath. Since the top air is moving faster, the pressure drops up there, and the wing just gets sucked right into the sky. Science is wild. I had to sketch it 3 times. Alan actually caught the vibe by round 2. Then there's the harbor master. He's the new wing boss because he's the only guy in this whole kingdom who's ever actually bent wood into a curve under pressure. He finally clicks on the 3rd try. I start mapping out the flaps, the tail, the rudder, every little bit that makes this thing actually steerable. I used a stick to show them the angle of attack. Meanwhile, Pip stayed up all night carving this sick little wooden glider. Pip and I spent 2 straight afternoons hurling that thing off the hill until it finally stopped nosediving and actually flew straight. I showed Ellen exactly how tweaking the elevator totally changes where the thing goes. By day 2, 4 of Alan's crew are building their own mini gliders out of scraps and silk, just chucking them off the city walls. Our first real powered model? Tiny, about the size of a sparrow. It has a wooden frame, silk skin stretched tight and shellacked, 2 wings, and a tiny bronze engine. The propeller is no bigger than a penny. Took 12 days of grinding in the shop. Test day rolls around. We drag it out to the grass behind my hill, and this kid climbs into the open seat. His name is Serin. He is 22 in their years. Thin shoulders, looking like he hasn't had a full meal in years. Alan spills the tea on his backstory while we wait for liftoff. Kid lost everything when the fleet got wrecked 2 years back. Straight up orphan. His mom died when the coast burned down. He walked to the city alone, 13 years old, 2 weeks of winter, nothing but grit. He's done it all, guttering fish and sweeping temples. He spent the last 6 weeks in the shop showing off the steadiest hands Alan has ever seen. Legit surgical precision. When she asked for a volunteer pilot, he was already first in line before the ink on the sign was even dry. Told her he'd been dreaming of flying since he was a little kid watching birds off the cliffs back home. Serious main character energy. Aylin liked the story, but honestly, she picked him for those steady as a rock hands. Engine kicks over. The thing's buzzing like a bug. Suddenly, the prop is just a blur. Siren guns it. The plane starts rolling, picking up speed, bouncing all over the rocks and the grass. Then, the bumping stops, wheels up. The whole crew lets out this sound, not a cheer, more like everyone holding their breath at once. It gets maybe 10 feet up, hangs there for about 8 seconds. Suddenly, a gust smacks the left wing. Siren panics and overcorrects. The plane dips, and the wingtip snags the grass. The whole thing just cartwheels and slams down upside down. Total wreck. Silence. Total, soul-crushing silence. Nobody moves a muscle. Then we hear his tiny voice from the pile of junk. Nose is bleeding, but I'm good. Yo, did you see that? I actually flew. Then the crew just bolts toward him. They pull him out of the mess. His nose is bleeding and his shoulders all scraped up, but he's got this massive grin I can see from the hilltop. Grass and hair, laughing like a maniac. Alan gets there first, grabs him, and gives him that "you idiot, you're alive" shake that only veteran engineers give to rookies who survived their first crash. She lets go and just walks back to me. Doesn't say a single word. She didn't have to. Everyone on that field was wearing the exact same goofy-ass smile. Next morning, flight number 2. No crashing this time. Just 2 minutes of cruising in a circle and a perfect landing. Now the crew is screaming their heads off. 2 days later, we go for round 3. We mounted a little machine gun in front of the cockpit. It fires through the prop using a timing gear I remembered from a museum diagram I saw in Tokyo back when I was 19. Pure engineering magic. The gun spits lead through the spinning blades without clipping a single one. It works. Surin does a low pass over the straw targets we set up. He walks those tracer rounds right down the line and 3 targets just drop. It's wild. It has been 2 months since I was lying on this hill with my hands absolutely trashed. Lilliputanians got 20 planes in the air now. 20. In just 2 months. Freaking insane. Aylin and I are hanging at the airfield, watching the 2nd Squadron come in hot in formation. Surin's out front, leading the pack. He's the squad leader now, mostly because he's the only guy with more than a month of flight time, but also because he's got this instinct for the air that you just can't teach. The planes buzz the city wall and touch down one by one. Little puffs of dust everywhere as they hit the grass. 20 engines are buzzing in the morning air. I'm just chilling on the grass, Pip on my shoulder, Alan on my knee. Life is wild. Alan pulls the pipe from her mouth. Huge, she says, her voice barely a whisper. 3 months ago, this kingdom didn't even have a single cannon. Today, we've got an actual air force. I've dug through every single history scroll in the library. Spoiler alert, there's zero record of anyone on this island jumping from bows and arrows to freaking fighter planes in 90 days. Honestly, there's no record of anyone doing it, period. Not ever. I look down at my left hand. The wrap is finally off. There's this wide, shiny white scar shaped like a crescent across my palm. And my pinky? Yeah, it doesn't bend like it used to. I squeeze it into a fist well, as close to a fist as it gets. We didn't have a choice, I tell her. Nah, she says. We didn't. But here's what neither of us knew that morning. There's been a Blastorian spy lurking in the city for 4 days already. He snuck in with a caravan of cloth merchants coming up from the southern villages. His papers were legit and his accent was spot on because, turns out, he was born right here in a village his family ditched 12 years ago when Carton's dad's fleet burned the place down. Right now, he's perched on the city wall with a little scope pressed to his eye, watching the squadron touch down. He's counting wings, props, exhaust clouds, and the way the aircraft taxi in formation. He hits 20, folds the scope. He hops off the wall and just walks out. Calm as can be, right through the eastern gate. 3 days later, he's in some stone hall at a fortress out on the east coast, giving his report to Carton's head of intel. And the guy in charge? He reads the thing twice. On the second pass, he goes white as a sheet, stands up, and bolts down the hall to this heavy door. He knocks. The man on the other side hasn't slept in 2 days. Honestly, he hasn't had a good night's rest in months. He's hunched over a workbench littered with blueprints, bronze bits, and this one big machine that's hidden by a canvas and a badly angled lamp. The intel chief reads the report out loud. The guy at the bench doesn't even look up. Once it's over, he grabs the paper, reads it for himself, 3 times. He sets it down super slow right next to his project. Then he stands, walks to the door. He stares at the chief. "Nobody disturbs me," he says. "0 exceptions. Leave food at the door and get out. Leave messages the same way. Even if the whole city is on fire, do not knock." I'll come out when I'm ready. Door shuts. He stays in there for 2 weeks. Then, the problem finally hits me through the smoke. Not the war smoke, though. The other stuff. The smoke from our own chimneys. I've been staring at it for a week without it actually clicking. Like watching a kettle boil while totally forgetting about the stove underneath. Every single morning, the air over Lilliputania is stained with this brown smear that hits halfway up the sky before it fades. And every day that smear gets a little bigger. The foundries are cranking. The distillery is pumping. 2 more forges just popped up in the Eastern District. And the engine workshop? That place is running 24/7. It's hot all night long. Tiny Smith's working 2 shifts under the lamps. And all that gear? It eats wood, charcoal for the metal, fuel for the boilers, heat for the kilns, wood, more wood. On the first morning of month 3, I climb the hill and look out with fresh eyes. And man, I see what I've done to the trees. The forest behind the city used to touch the western wall. It was just this endless carpet of green from the city all the way to the mountains. That continuous green? Yeah, it's gone. Now, there's the wall. And then this massive brown scar of stumps and churned up dirt where the wood crews have been hacking away for 2 months. The actual trees start way further out, like a kilometer back from where they were when I got here. 1 kilometer in 2 months. I do the math while standing there, and the numbers are ugly. Really ugly. I go find Alan in the workshop. She's on the floor by the test bench, squinting through a lens at a valve seat that one of her guys is filing down. She doesn't look up. Alan, we've got a problem. Always do, she says. No, this one's different. It's bigger. The trees. Look at the forest line, we're devouring it. At this pace, in 1 year, there won't be a forest within a day's walk. 2 years? Nothing within a week's walk. By year 3, Lilliputania is gone because there's no charcoal, because we ran out of trees. And no charcoal means no metal. And without metal, we're back to shooting arrows. She drops the lens, sits back, stares past me toward the courtyard door, past the door, at that nasty brown smoke over the roofs. Past the smoke to a horizon she can't see but knows was way greener last month. How long have you been tracking this? About a week. Man, I totally dropped the ball. My bad. Look, stop apologizing and just tell me the plan. I'm ready to kill the wood-burning era once and for all. Every single forge, engine, kiln, and lamp, even that distillery setup needs a total power upgrade. We're switching gears to something better. Power that doesn't munch on forests. Wind? Nah, too sketchy and unreliable for what we're trying to do here. What about water? Like the old grain mills? No, this isn't just some clunky wheel spinning. We need something more. See, the wheel hits a generator which spits out this wild stuff called electricity. And no, it's not just heat. It's something else. Think of that tiny blue spark jumping the gap in an engine cylinder. That's the juice we want. We're going to crank out tons of it and ship it across the map using skinny metal wires. Once it hits the other end, this stuff replaces everything fire ever did. Simple as that. Lights, heat, movement, all sourced from the river. She looks at me like I'm crazy. Liquid fire? Maybe. But first, I gotta find the perfect spot. Leaving at dawn with Pip. Back in 3 days. Do me a favor. Don't start any more wood-burning junk while I'm out. Kill that second forge project. Tell the Smiths it's just a pause. She asks what I'm actually hunting for out there. Don't worry about it. I'll know the vibe when I find it. Next morning, I'm gone with the sun. Pip's perched on my shoulder, gear packed, clutching this skinny little twig he calls a walking stick. The kid is ready. For him, it's basically a ladder. We head west, trekking past the trees until the ground starts getting real vertical. Those hills eventually turn into legit massive mountains. This giant rocky spine has blocked Blastoria's puny army for 300 years. I just follow the splashing water. I spend a day and a half hiking through pines and icy rocks, tracking these tiny crystal-clear streams. Day 2, I stumble into this tight, hidden valley I've never seen before. Then I see it, the jackpot. An actual waterfall. To a tiny Lilliputian, this thing is an absolute monster, the biggest on the island. Pip already knows the sacred name for it. Mother's Veil. Apparently, it's holy ground or something. People even write tracks about it. He's whispering the lore in my ear, totally hyped, as we round the corner and finally face the drop. He has that crazy 12-year-old energy, acting like he's showing a giant, some ancient legendary treasure from a bedtime story. To Pip, this waterfall is absolutely freaking massive. The water drops 3 Pip lengths down into a pool, way too big for him to cross. To me, it's a knee-high stream falling off a 3-foot ledge. It's absolute perfection because the flow never stops. Fast water, steady flow, probably fed by mountain snow. That pool at the bottom is exactly the right size. Plus, those rocky walls are solid enough to anchor whatever I build. I stand right there, letting the water slam into my hand, feeling the power. My brain starts crunching the numbers. The math checks out. Listen, Pip, tell the priest we aren't here to trash Mother's Veil. We're just putting it to work. We're gonna use it, sure, but the water keeps falling. The pool stays exactly where it is. We'll drop a wheel in the water and build a little shack nearby packed with metal gears. That metal will send light zipping down a wire straight back to the city. The fall stays gorgeous. Now it's just getting a job too. They'll hate it initially, Pip says, dead serious. But they'll adjust. Eventually they'll brag about it. Typical Lilliputians, he adds. You're pretty smart for a shrimp. Well, I do spend all day listening to a giant ramble in my pocket. I nearly lose it laughing, but I hold it in. Note to self. We trek back and I fill Alan in on the find. I give her my shopping list. Iron, copper wire, and lodestone. She's cool with the first two. Lodestone's a mystery to her. It's a rock that literally yanks iron toward it. No heat, no sticky stuff, just a pull. Hang a needle on a thread, bring the rock close, and boom, it snaps through the air like an invisible hand grabbed it. If there's iron in this dirt, there's lodestone hiding here too. Guarantee it. They're basically cousins. Tell your miners to check the hills right where they're already digging for iron. They'll see dark rocks sticking to their tools like magnets. She nods. We're totally on it. I need miles of copper wire, super thin, don't let it snap. Get the wire pullers working a double shift starting tonight. We're gonna wrap it all onto wooden spools. She's already scribbling notes. Day 5, the lodestone shows up in a wooden crate. Honestly, there is way more of it than I expected. The mine foreman was totally floored by the haul. Once Alan's crew realized what they were actually hunting, these magical rocks started popping up everywhere like crazy. They'd been tossing them for years, thinking they were just useless dark stones. Yo, watch this. I take this tiny shard on my fingertip and bring it close to a little iron nail. It's just sitting there on the workbench when bam, the nail straight up teleports off the wood and glues itself to the stone. Pip let out this sharp little gasp, but Alan, nothing. She's totally over the whole impossible stuff phase. Nowadays, she just stares at the madness, stays quiet, and scribbles it down in her notebook later like it's no big deal. Next up, the wheel. I had to hack this thing out myself, zero choice. In their world, this wheel is basically the size of a 5-story mansion. To me, it's about 2 meters across. Just a massive paddle wheel made of thick timber with blades shaped to catch the falling water perfectly. No workshop on this island is big enough to hold it, and honestly, none of their tiny tools could even scratch something this huge. I ended up raiding the tool shed for their giant axe, which is basically a pocket knife to me, and found a fallen oak tree near the waterfall. I spent 4 straight days carving that wheel under the open sky, right at the edge of the gorge. Pip just chilled on a rock the whole time, acting like a supervisor and pointing out spots where I left the wood too chunky. That makes 2 things I've built by hand since I crashed here. First was the owls. Now, while I'm sweating over the wood, Alan's crews are back in the city workshops, winding miles and miles of copper wire onto wooden spools. They're also building a hand-cranked vacuum pump based on my sketches. It's a little pot with a piston and a one-way valve to suck the air out of glass bulbs. They're even blowing the glass themselves. Tiny pear-shaped things from a glassblower in the South Quarter who usually just makes perfume bottles. Inside each bulb, I'm dropping a thin filament of high-resistance wire. I had the pullers make special. Tungsten would be sick, but we don't have any. We're stuck with an iron-carbon alloy that Alan and I fought over for 2 whole days. It'll probably run like junk and only last a few hours. But that's plenty for what I need today. By the end of week 3, the parts are finally ready. I started putting the generator together at the foot of Mother's Veil, while Alan and her 4 best assistants stood on a rock below, shouting help and instructions up at me. The wheel fits into this wooden frame I slapped together across the pool. I anchored the frame into the gorge stone using iron pins I hammered in myself. The main shaft from the wheel runs into a tiny stone hut right by the water. Inside that hut, a wooden core wrapped in kilometers of copper wire. And fixed around that core is an arrangement of magnetic stones that turns all that spinning motion into actual juice. 2 thick copper wires snake out of the hut, run along the riverbank, and follow a line of stripped pine poles that I pounded into the ground all the way through the hills and across a kilometer of open dirt, right back to the city courtyard. The whole rig is held together by wooden wedges, iron pins, rope, and the sheer patience of a guy who's been wasting away for a month. And yeah, the weight loss is legit. I haven't been eating nearly enough. There just isn't enough food on this tiny rock for a guy my size. There never was. The only reason I haven't totally starved is because Pip's been bringing me handfuls of fruit and bread every morning and night for weeks. He hauls it in his tiny arms, climbs up onto my chest, and hands it over 1 piece at a time while he watches me eat. Sometimes it's fruit the city gathered for me as a thank you gift. Sometimes it's bread the bakers made in giant loaves, which are actually about the size of my thumb. He even brought a single boiled bird egg once, the size of a marble, that he carried all the way from the cliffs himself. He never says a word about it. He just hands me the snacks, watches me chew, and then goes to find more. I'm way thinner than when I first fell onto this island. I've had to punch 2 new holes in my belt just to keep my pants on. My cheeks are sunken. My beard's grown out into this wild mess because I don't have anything to shave with. When I see my reflection in the harbor, I look like a guy who's been grinding too hard on an empty stomach, which is exactly the vibe right now. But I'm not stopping. We finished the generator at noon on day 28. I cracked open the wooden gate I built upstream. The water of Mother's Veil, which we'd been diverting through a side channel for the last week, comes rushing back into the main course and slams into the blades. The wheel starts to turn, slow at first, then faster. Then it's absolutely screaming. In the stone hut, the shaft is spinning like crazy. Magnets are flying past the copper coils, sending power down that long line of wire across the fields. For the first time in the history of this island, an electric current is born. Back in the city courtyard, sitting on a small wooden stand Alan built for the big moment, is one tiny glass bulb with that iron filament inside. Captain Ryan is standing there waiting, because someone needs to flip the little switch I built into the wire. Alan? She'd rather be at the generator than at the bulb. She trusts machines way more than she trusts destiny or whatever. Pip's just chilling right in my shirt pocket. I'm vibing on the grass by the cliff's edge, hands on my knees, watching gears spin and listening to that low, steady hum of the coils from the shed, just waiting for the messenger. 20 minutes later, he finally hauls it up the path. He's totally out of breath, grinning so hard his tiny face can't even keep the expression straight. It's lit, big guy. The glass fruit, it's actually glowing. I just close my eyes for a second and breathe. Then I stand up and trudge back toward the city, feeling every bit of that exhaustion. By late afternoon, the news is everywhere. Half the town is mobbing the workshop courtyard. They're all circled up around this dinky little wooden stand. Right in the middle sits a glass bulb about the size of a flower bud, irradiating this soft, warm yellow glow, nothing like any fire they've ever seen. No flickering. That's what's really messing with their heads. Fire is twitchy, fire dances. But this light? It just sits inside the glass and beams. Pure magic. Kids are reaching out to touch the bulb, but their parents are snatching their hands back. It's warm, but not burning hot. One little girl in the front row actually feels the warmth. Seeing her face in that moment, that's the highlight of this whole month of labor. King Murdo rolls up with zero hype. No fancy chair, no guards, nothing. He walked the whole way from the palace alone. He shoves through the crowd and stands before the glowing bulb in his robe and crown. He just stares at it for an eternity without saying a word. Then, he finally turns around. He looks up at me. I'm sitting cross-legged outside the courtyard wall, my chin basically level with the rooftops. My left hand is still shot and my whole body feels weirdly light. Big guy, he whispers, are you like a god? I take a second to think. Is there any version of yes that won't absolutely poison this kingdom for the next 100 years? Nah, King, I say. I'm just an engineer. Honestly, that's worse. He looks at me, then back at the light. He looks at me again. Then King Murdo of Lilliputania does something he hasn't done in front of his people his entire reign. He laughs. Just a dry, old man chuckle. It goes on for a few seconds and then just stops. But even when it stops, he's still smiling. Trust me, seeing that look on his face is the rarest thing ever. Worse, he says. Yeah, I think you might be spot on about that, big guy. Exactly right. Pip crawls out of my pocket and onto my shoulder with a crumb of bread the size of a pea. He offers it. I take it. I munch on the snack. He climbs back down to find more. Behind the king, the bulb just keeps on shining. 4 days after the bulb is lit, a scout hits the central pass at sunset. He's one of Captain Ryan's best, a wiry guy named Onel, who's been running these high trails for the kingdom since he was 16, and who the captain swears has hawk eyes and the lung capacity of a bird 3 times his actual size. He reaches the city gate covered in salt, sweat, and grime, not even stopping to wash. He goes straight to the king. 10 minutes later, I'm summoned. Captain Ryan is climbing up my knee with the scout on his shoulder, and the scout gives the report straight to me. The king decided I needed to hear this news in the guy's own voice. No filters. Big guy, I hit the pass 3 days ago. Came down the eastern slope under the cover of total darkness. I staked out a ridge above the main road for 2 days and a night, just watching. I'm here to tell you what I saw. Tell me they're coming by land. I stay quiet and let him keep going. I let him talk. He'd been counting the enemy columns. They crawled out of the lowlands and merged onto the main road heading north, then turned west toward our pass. I counted 10,000 soldiers in just the first 3 hours. I stopped counting because I ran out of fingers. There were way more. They've got siege wagons, mobile cannons, even mounted troops riding those massive white rats. They breed those things for war out east. Saddled, bridled, and the riders are wearing some serious heavy armor. I spotted King Carton's personal guard banner at the front. Saw 3 others too, but I didn't recognize them. The whole army is basically moving at the speed of their slowest cannon. They'll hit the pass in 11 or 12 days if the weather holds. They aren't coming for a village. They're coming for us. I look at Captain Ryan. How long has it been since Blastoria tried a land invasion through the pass? 87 years. Last time, the old-timers held them at the wall for 3 days until the early snow hit and they finally bailed. That wall is the only thing standing between us and them, so how tall are we talking? He's vibing on it. Puts his hands out, maybe 4 inches apart. For those tiny grunts, that's basically eye level. They're rat riders? They'd just hop that. The heavy cannons on wheels wouldn't even feel a bump. They'll just wheel those big guns inside and blast the old wall to smithereens, then stroll right through the rubble. This wall was built by guys like me to stop big-ass titans. It wasn't made for whatever this tiny nightmare is. I let that sink in. The pass is the only way through the mountains. Onel and his boys already scoped the place out. I've checked Aylin's maps too. It's tight at both ends but opens up big time in the center. The west side spills right into Lilliputania. Where it hits our side of the range, we're looking at a whole kilometer across. 1 solid kilometer of open dirt between 2 massive rock walls. That's one hell of a bottleneck. I start crunching numbers. Not tactical stuff, the real math. The kind I've been obsessing over since I got here. How much dirt can one body actually haul in 24 hours? A body my size, with my grit and nothing to do but move mountains. I stand up. I've definitely lost some weight lately. The old scar on my hand feels tight when I make a fist. Whatever. That doesn't mean squat right now. Rain, get word to every shop and farm. I need shovels. Bring me the absolute biggest ones they've got. I need rope. I need every spare blanket in the city sewn into a shirt. I'm turning mine into a massive hauling sack. Line up water carts at the west gate tomorrow morning. I'm gonna be thirsty as hell. Big guy. What's the plan? I'm building a wall. A real one. Alan's already at the bottom of the hill before I finish. She heard the scouts report. She's already got her pipe lit and that little notebook tucked under her arm. She's staring up at me with that "don't even start with me" look. Here comes the argument. Big man, the pass is a kilometer wide. Yeah, I get it, Al, but I'm building a kilometer of wall. I'm using my bare hands, my feet, and a sack full of earth, and I'm finishing it before those punks arrive. They'll hit that wall and freeze. Waist deep for me. About 150 of you guys stacked up. High enough to stop a jumping rat. High enough that cannons can't aim over it. No way they climb it without ladders. And the second they lean a ladder against that face, our shooters will pick them off like flies. She just stares. The pipe doesn't even twitch. 6 days. You've got 6 days until they hit the east side, and another 6 before they cross. Maybe 12 total if it stays sunny. Fine. 6 days for the dirt, the rest for the heavy guns. I'll sleep when this thing is finished. You haven't slept since the spark. Like I said, I'll sleep when I'm done. She locks eyes with me for a second. Then she gives a quick nod and heads for the city, barking orders into the dark. I'm hitting the pass at dawn. The shirt is ready and waiting for me at the west end when I get there. The local seamstresses pulled an all-nighter. They took 60 massive blankets, the heavy-duty wool stuff from the mountain villages. They stitched them all together into one giant tarp and turned the corners into these huge reinforced loops. I slip it over my shoulders like a builder's apron. It's got this front pocket the size of a hammock for hauling dirt. They even made me a freaking hat. 40 more blankets went into that thing. It ties under my chin and has this hollow space at the top so I can scoop more dirt when hands are full. Pip breaks down the whole design for me, acting super serious the whole time. He's standing right on my apron pocket while I tie my hat, bragging about how the seamstresses nailed the stitching. I give my chin a little 2-finger salute toward the city as a thanks. The seamstresses are watching from the wall a kilometer away. It's all the thanks I can give. Time to start digging. There's a dry patch of earth on the south side. Just a long, shallow bank running up to the cliffs. It's decent soil, mostly loose dirt and old roots, the kind of stuff you can move if you've got a strong back. I dig both hands in and haul the first load. I keep going for 6 straight days. I want to be real about this, it was a grind. Just one guy bent over for 6 days, shuffling between the dirt and the wall, just hauling loads in my apron pocket and my hat, in my hands and on my back. The locals wove me some baskets by day 2 when they saw I needed more gear. They figured out pretty quick that one apron wasn't going to cut it. Real talk? I was catching 3-hour naps on a folded cloak while Pip tapped my face to wake me up. Then I'd haul my aching body back to that dirt pile. Honestly, by day 3, I was a mess. My hands were bleeding and the straps on my apron had rubbed the small of my back completely raw. And then, the white-haired healer lady rolled up in a cart, climbed onto my shoulder, and packed my wounds with that same crushed mint and honey stuff. Then back to work. Bottom line, that wall was getting huge. I built it like any other fortress. Wide at the bottom, slanted on the sides, and a flat top for the squad to stand on. I stomped every single layer down with my own feet, pacing back and forth along the new line like a machine, crushing the loose dirt into something rock solid before I piled more junk on top of it. Tiny engineers hovered around with strings and pebbles to check the level, but I just eyeballed the whole thing and kept it straight. End of day 2, we had a ridge crossing the southern third. By day 3, it was halfway across the pass. By the 5th day, the thing stretched across nearly the entire kilometer, and I was stuck in the middle with a cliff behind me and another in front. Sunset on day 6, I finally packed the last section. I stood up and checked out my work. To me, it was only 1.5 feet tall, pretty much nothing, like a coffee table or some kid's chair. But from the eastern side where the enemy was coming, it was 150 units tall. A sheer dirt face on their side and a smooth slope on mine because I'd carved the eastern side straight down using the edge of my biggest shovel. It stretched from one cliff to the other, zero gaps, no weak spots anywhere. To those guys, it was a freaking mountain that just spawned out of nowhere. I crashed on the western side and closed my eyes for a sec. When I looked up, Alan's crews were already rolling in with carts. Those carts were packed with cannons. Over the next 4 days, this thing turned into way more than just a wall. Alan's gun crews started carving firing spots into my side of the slope along the whole kilometer length, and every single spot was big enough to hold a 6-cannon battery. Captain Rain, who is basically a general now because this group is a real army, walks the line with his staff and sets up the guards. He built 2 wooden towers right where the cliffs dip, looking out over a patch of grass behind the wall near the central foothills. The airfield shifted north so the pilots could fly out and back without having to cross the pass itself. Within 3 days, 20 planes were parked behind the wall instead of the city, ready to go. We finished everything 11 days after that scout first arrived. Morning of day 12. That's when the Blastoria army finally started pouring through the far end of the pass. I was perched on the southern part of the wall, right where the back slope was the steepest. Rain was standing on my left knee with a brass telescope. Alan was on my right knee with an unlit pipe in her mouth. Pip was tucked into the pocket of my fresh shirt, staying quiet as a mouse. The army rounded the curve below us like a massive dark wave. It was way bigger than anything I'd ever seen, even bigger than the scouts' report. Wagons, rats, soldiers, drums, the whole thing looked like a slow river of metal and cloth pouring into the pass toward us. The column marched right through the middle of the wide pass. Then they hit the open kilometer at the western end. They started spreading out to fight, like a river hitting flat ground. And then, out of nowhere, the whole army just stopped. It was like water hitting a dam. I watched that oh crap moment ripple all the way from the front to the back. The front guys looked up. Then the middle guys saw them looking and they looked up too. The guys in the back were unhooking their cannons when the order hit. They just stopped and stared up at us. One guy on a white war rat broke away from the group and trotted slowly toward the base of our wall. He was wearing a long blue coat and didn't seem to have a weapon on him. I checked him out through Rain's telescope when the captain handed it over to me. Dude was way older than I thought he'd be. Gray hair, general's badge, and a face that said he'd been playing this game forever and had never, not once, been caught off guard by a piece of dirt. He stopped his rat at the bottom, tilted his head back, and looked all the way up. He looked right at me, sitting cross-legged with 2 officers on my knees and a kid in my pocket. A solid kilometer of dirt wall stretching north and south. And the dude's face? It totally glitched out just like that Lilliput King's did the very first time I stood up. He stares for a hot minute, then turns that rat around. He trots that rodent back across the empty kilometer, reaches the front lines. He starts yapping something to the high-ranking officers surrounding him. The brass passed the word to the officers behind them. The order to dip out ripples back through the ranks, just like the stop order did. One slow wave from front to back. Then Blastoria's army form a long, careful line and march right back where they came from. By the time the sun drops, they've ghosted the west end of the pass. Next morning, scouts say the east end of the pass is totally clear too. By day 3, they're back on the eastern road, marching south and away from us, heading for that coast fort. I haven't even fired a single shot yet. Alan's cannon stayed cold. Siren didn't fly a single mission. The wall did the heavy lifting just by being there and being way too massive to handle. Honestly, it's the cheapest win of my entire life. 1 whole week passes us by. On day 7 after they dipped, a lone Blastorian rider rolls up the pass from the east. He's got a white flag on a short pole, riding real slow. He stops where the general did and looks way up. In a high, clear voice, he yells that he's a messenger from King Carton and needs to talk to the giant. I drop my hand to the dirt, palm up. It's my go-to move for welcoming important little visitors to the face-level club. The messenger dismounts. He steps onto my palm without even flinching. Mad respect for that. I lift him up. He's a kid, maybe 19 or 20 in their years. His hands aren't shaking, but I can see his pulse jumping in his neck above his coat collar. He bows from the waist. Giant, I'm instructed to deliver this message and wait for nothing but a simple yes or no. This is from King Carton of Blastoria, handwritten and sealed by his own hand. He holds out a tiny folded scrap of paper. Not much bigger than a postage stamp to me. I pinch it between my thumb and my pointer finger. I unfold it carefully. I tilt the magnifying lens I keep in my belt pouch up to my eye and start reading. The note is really short. The handwriting is tiny and steady. It's the script of a man who hasn't slept much and writes mostly to himself in private workshop journals late at night. It says, Giant, you built a wall that my army just can't cross. I built something your wall can't stop. We could spend 10 years throwing our people at each other, but why? I'm tired. You must be too. I'm going to offer you a different way out of this. Meet me one-on-one on the East Beach, below my fort at sunrise in 30 days. No armies, no fleets, no planes. Just you and me on the sand for everyone to see. If you win, Blastoria drops its guns and our islands become one again, strictly on your terms. If I win, we enter your gates on my terms. If you're ready to settle this like a man and not a storm, come alone. I've waited 10 years for this meeting. I can wait 30 more days. Signed, Carton. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. I lower my glass and look at the kid sitting on my palm. Tell the king, I say, that I've read his note. Yes or no, giant. That's all I can take back. I don't give an answer right away. In my pocket, right against my collarbone, Pip whispers in a voice only I can hear. Don't go. Please. Please. It's a trap. It has to be. Anything else is just crazy. Please don't go. On my right knee, Alan pulls her pipe out and looks way up at me. Her face goes totally calm. That look she gets when she's saying something she's known forever. Giant, it's a trap. Definitely a trap. He spent 10 years building something, and he just admitted it. He told you it was made for you. He invited you to his beach, at his time, and he wants you all alone. He's waited 10 years for the only rival his work was meant for. You're the only opponent he ever cared about, and he is not going to let this chance slip away. I know you. You're going. I look at her, then at Pip in my pocket. I look at the kid waiting on my palm. Yeah, I say. I'm going to go. I look back. Tell your king the answer is yes. I'll be on the east beach below his fort in 30 days. Alone. The messenger bows again. I set him on the ground. He hops on his rat without saying a word. He turns that rat. Rides back down the path at a steady walk. That white flag stays up until he hits the curve and vanishes. With him gone, Pip is crying quietly into my shirt pocket while Alan goes right back to smoking her pipe. And Captain Rain is just chilling on my left knee, totally still. I'm staring out past the wall toward where that messenger just took off. Right where the army headed out, toward that dude who hasn't caught a wink of sleep in 10 years, currently tweaking some crazy gadget I've never even seen. I've only got exactly 30 days left to live. First night after the messenger bounces, 0 sleep for me. I park it on the west side of my wall, leaning against the dirt I hauled with my own 2 hands, staring up at a bunch of stars I still don't recognize while I wonder what Carton's been cooking up. Got 0 clue what it is. That's the problem, and honestly, the only one worth my time. I'm running a list in my head. It's short. Just the cold facts I know about King Carton. And based on those facts, here's what follows. Carton wants a one-on-one fight with me. Carton wouldn't invite me to scrap solo unless he was 100% sure he'd win that duel alone. He thinks he's got this in the bag, which means he's got some secret weapon for giant killing. He spent 10 years building it. This whole project started way before any giant ever set foot on this island, meaning Carton was either prepping for some old legend or his own massive brain told him something big was coming. The thing's so huge, the smoke from its workshops has been visible across the water for months, yet it's small enough to haul to a beach for a duel. It's got to have one of 3 perks because there's only 3 ways to fight my size. Either it's bigger, faster, or it's packing weapons I straight up can't block. Most likely all 3. Alan finds me on the wall at dawn. She looks like hot garbage, too. We both look like total wrecks. She parks it on the wall right next to my hip. She's finally used to sitting by me. She lights her pipe, smoke curling thin and steady in the freezing morning air. Giant, she says. He's had 10 whole years. He's been focused on one thing for 10 years, thinking about you or someone like you every single day for a decade. We've been thinking about him for 1 month. The math is straight up trash. I know. I'm not telling you no. Just stating the math. I know, Alan. I've been crunching those same damn numbers all through the night. We just sit there for a minute. The sun crawls over the eastern pass, painting the cliffs bright orange, while my long wall throws a massive shadow westward across the whole open kilometer. And somewhere on the other side of this rock, some guy is lacing his boots for another workday. 30 days, Alan says. What do you need from us? I need a weapon I can actually hold, and some armor for my softest spots. I want the full scoop on that eastern beach, sand depth, the slope, the tide, the cliffs behind it, everything. And I need you to start a backup plan in the background. Something that doesn't stop even if I end up straight up dead. Keep building, Alan. I want every single workshop grinding for the next 30 days like I'm never actually coming back. Because if I tank this fight, the whole thing I started here has to keep moving forward on its own. The best way to ensure that is to make sure that by the day I leave, you and your people have already moved past needing me. She's quiet for a while. You're telling me to plan for your death. I'm telling you to plan for the kingdom. Those aren't the same plan. They are today, she whispers very quietly, and we both know she's straight up right. She doesn't argue. She kills her pipe, stands up, and walks back down the wall toward the city to start the grind. Blacksmiths start on the weapon that afternoon. Lilliput's biggest forge has never made gear for a giant. But for the next 2 weeks, those guys never stopped trying to get it right. They started with the longest steel beam they could find a ship's keel donated by the harbor master without being asked. They heat it, stretch it, fold it. Then they stretch it again. The whole crew worked in shifts day and night because no single Lilliputian smith could handle a metal piece that big for so many hours solo. By the end of week 2, they bring me the prize. It's a sword. To them, it's a beast as long as 2 grown men. To me, it's a kitchen knife. The blade is straight, gray, and perfectly tempered. edges sharp enough to shave with, handle wrapped in leather strips to fit my massive grip. The pommel's got a bird inlay. It's the symbol of the high priest squad. The priest sent it to be set into the metal himself. Alan tells me when she delivers the blade today. I sit with it for a long time. Tell him thanks, I say. Tell him I won't waste this. Armor's harder. Not enough iron on this rock to plate a guy my size. Plus, zero time to forge what we have. Yo, Aylin and her squad finally cracked the code by the end of week 1. They took the gnarliest, thickest leather in all of Lilliputania, the hardcore stuff their saddle makers use for war, and stitched me this massive trench coat. It was tailored for me with heavy padding at the shoulders and chest, plus secret pockets for my heart, kidneys, and spine. They slid in these thin-ass bronze and iron plates. These were the biggest plates their foundries could pour, yet the whole thing feels like a hoodie on me. It definitely won't stop a real cannonball. Might deflect a side swipe from something heavy though. Honestly, it is the best they could whip up in 30 days. They knew it sucked. I knew it sucked. I took it anyway and told them it was exactly what I needed. Every evening, when I am too beat to think and Alan's headed back to her shop, I just chill on the beach below the city wall, watch the waves roll in, Pip perches on my shoulder, and we just vibe in silence for hours. Honestly, the not talking part is what I love most about the little guy. He doesn't feel the need to fill the air with junk, but on the 18th night, with only 12 days left on the clock, he breaks the silence. Hey big guy, can I ask you something? Always, I said. If you win, if Carton loses and the war is over, you going back home? I did not answer right away. Truth is, I have not let myself go there in a long, long time. I have been dodging that question like a pro. But the shape of it has been lurking in the back of my head for weeks. That is how some questions work. They just sit there, waiting for you to be ready. I looked out at the ocean. The sea on this side heads west, and west is the way to Tokyo, way past some Bermuda Triangle type stuff. Might not even be a place that connects back to the world I used to know. Pip, I honestly do not know. You do not know if you can, or you do not know if you want to. Damn, that is a heavy hit for a 12-year-old. But it was the right hit. Both, I guess. I do not know if there is a portal back, and if there was, I am not sure that place I would be going back to is even home anymore. Home is supposed to be where you actually fit, where your work matters and people give a damn when you show up for dinner. I had a place in Tokyo, a job, 2 guys at work who knew my name, but nobody would have noticed if I just vanished in Florida. Real talk, Pip. The day I hopped that plane, home was just a silent apartment where absolutely nothing was waiting for me. But here, with you, Alan, Ryan, the King, the bell ringers, the alchemists, and the kids who painted the owls, I have got more people who would actually miss me in one day than I had in my entire life before. He goes quiet for a second. That is sad. Yeah, I said, it is. But it is also the best news I have had in forever. It means going home is complicated now, and I would way rather have a messy, interesting question than a clean, boring one. He thinks about this for a minute, then, very quiet. I would notice. I know you would, Pip. That is exactly my point. We did not say another word all night. Day 25. 5 days left. Alan climbs up my hill late afternoon, hops onto the flat stone table, and just sits. She does not have her notebook, just her pipe. She holds it out to me. Take it, Alan, I said. I have another in the shop. Had this one since I was 20. I want you to have it. If you come back, you give it back to me on the wall, and we will both have a good laugh. But if you do not, I want it on that eastern beach with you, not rotting in some drawer. This is the last time I am calling it mine. I took it. In my palm, it was the size of a freaking fingernail. The bowl was dark from use, and the stem was worn smooth where she had been biting it for 20 years. I gripped it careful. I do not smoke, Alan. I know that is not the point. I will bring it back. I know that is also not the point, she said. She climbed down and walked back to the city without even looking at me again. Day 28, 2 days out. Captain Ryan climbs onto my knee with a huge scroll and rolls it out on my thigh. It was not a plan for the duel. It was for after. Big guy, I have been grinding on this since that messenger showed up. Need you to see it before you roll out. If you do not make it, if the duel goes south, if Carton wins and Blastoria storms the pass with everything he has got left, this is the play. We hold the wall as long as humanly possible. The garrisons fall back in this exact order marked right here and here. The planes provide cover from these airfields. The fleet hits them from these 2 spots. The hydro plant keeps the shops humming. And those shops, they will keep cranking out cannons, powder, and engines until this city stops standing. We stash the Lilliputian fam in the high passes right here, here, and here. Blastoria hasn't touched those peaks in 3 centuries. They won't now. We can hold the wall for 2 months alone. Longer, if the fleet gets spicy with their tactics. We aren't surrendering. Not after you showed us what we're actually built to be. We aren't the same scrubs from 3 months back. We're the survivors from the day the giant crashed our beach party. We're evolved now. I checked his blueprint carefully. It's solid. It's real about where things might actually go south for us. It's the plan of a guy who weighed the absolute worst-case scenario and decided to keep swinging regardless. I look up from the page now. This is the biggest flex anyone's pulled in this kingdom in months. Captain Giant, I say, showing respect. Real talk? The biggest thing anyone built lately is the four of us on this hill, figuring out how to keep Lilliputania breathing without you around. That was your real legacy. The wall, guns, planes, and tech? Just tools. The four of us in the kingdom backing us, that's the real structure. I've got no comeback for that. I just nod and hand the plan back. He rolls it up, salutes, then hops off my knee. That's the moment. I realize the war's already won, regardless of what happens on that eastern beach in 2 days. That old Lilliputania that lost a village every year and sang sad songs for the dead? That version is gone for good. In its place is a kingdom with heavy artillery, air support, power grids, a wall, and a captain. He's got a plan B for my death, a master engineer who trusts me with her gear, a king who calls me a peer, and a kid in my pocket who'd actually notice if I vanished. This kingdom doesn't need me to carry them against Carton. They'd vibe with me living, but they don't need it. That's what victory looks like. When you build something right, it keeps breathing even after you're out of the picture. Day 30, duel day. I am up before the sun even thinks about rising. Geared up in my leather coat pockets loaded with bronze and iron. I strap the long sword to my hip, tucked Ains' pipe into that inner pocket right over my heart, the same spot Pip's been riding in for months now. I tell Pip he's got to find a new ride today. He's not coming. He doesn't even talk back, which catches me off guard until I realize he's been prepping for this all week. You walk back to me, Giant, he says. No tears. That's the only thing I'm saying today. Come back. I don't care how you pull it off. You just walk back. I'm gonna try, Pip. Harder than I've ever tried at anything. Only real answer. Now scram. I stand up. Last walk through the city before the duel. Streets are packed even though the sun isn't up because the whole city came out to watch me leave today. They're lining the main strip from the gate to the square and they're staying totally silent. No cheering, no flowers, no blessings. They just stand there and watch. They watch me pass, making sure every step is steady. As I pass each block, the crowd bows low once, then stands tall to watch the next group do the same. It's the bow of a kingdom saying thanks, and later in one single move. Honestly, it's the most classy thing I've ever seen in any culture I've ever spent time in. I step through the eastern gate and cross the kilometer of open ground. I hop over the top of the wall in one easy go. Same as always. I look down once at the tiny crew watching me from the ledge I built for them on the west side. They're on the firing lines and up in the watchtowers, stretched out across that whole kilometer of stone from cliff to cliff, and not a single soul is moving. Captain Rain's hitting a salute he'll probably hold until I'm a dot on the horizon. Aylin's at the main battery, missing her pipe because I've got it. The high priest is out there in his fancy white robe, clutching that bird staff in his hand. First time he's hit the wall since the factory started smoking. He's looking up at me, and for once, he doesn't look pissed or scared, just something else I can't name. Pip's perched on a high post on the ledge, just a tiny speck against the gray morning sky on a shoulder I can't see. I give them all one final slow wave of my hand. The whole wall waves back, 1 kilometer of tiny hands hitting the air. I turn and head east. The sun starts peeking over the peaks as I'm trekking down the long road on the other side. I don't look back. That's for people who are coming home. I hike all day, through the night, and all of the next day. By the morning of the second day after that, I hit the eastern coast, and the strait is right there in front of me. Yo, on my left, the massive cliffs of King Carton's fortress are just looming over me, and right at the base is this long, flat stretch of dark sand under the rising sun. The beach is totally empty. I start trekking down onto the sand. The tide is way out. That line of wet sand from the morning tide is still drying behind me as I walk over it. Cliffs at my back, ocean on the left, you get the vibe. The whole strait just disappears into the horizon, and that dark sand? It is wide, flat, and goes on forever in every direction. I pull up right in the middle of the beach, just waiting. Then, this thick fog rolls in off the water while I am standing there. Seriously, I have got no clue how long I was out there. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe a whole hour. The sun is up somewhere behind those rocks, but the light hitting the sand is still this depressing gray, and that gray starts turning white as the fog crawls over the surf, wrapping around my ankles and knees before finally swallowing my chest. I can't see the cliffs behind me anymore. I can't even see the water in front of me. Everything is gone except for a tiny circle of dark sand around my boots and a solid wall of white fog. It was empty, until it suddenly wasn't. I hear the thing before I even catch a glimpse. Footsteps, heavy ones. Each thud is a slow, deliberate hammer to the sand, deep, like something my size is stomping around. The ground actually shakes with every single step. It is a small vibration, sure, but it is definitely real. There is something out there in the soup moving toward me, and the thing is definitely walking on 2 legs, and those legs are basically the size of mine. I pull my long sword, but honestly, it feels like I am holding a budget kitchen knife right now. I have never been this terrified of a kitchen utensil. Then, 20 meters out, this silhouette finally breaks through the fog. It is man-sized, my size, specifically not some tiny Lilliputian. It is standing upright on two thick, segmented legs that end in flat metal feet. And it has these long arms hanging at its sides that end in massive iron fists, while the body is this rounded bronze and steel boiler covered in rivets, hissing out little white jets of steam in slow pulses. There is a head on top, a mean-looking helmet with one horizontal slit for eyes, and behind that slit, if I squint, I can see a tiny face, a lily face. Old, super focused, and looking intense as hell, lit from below by the orange glow of a furnace. The machine's chest is basically a glass-fronted cockpit. Through the glass, I can see him clearly now. King Carton of Blastoria, just a tiny old dude with a white beard trimmed tight to his jaw. He is wearing round wire glasses, and his little hands are death-gripping, two control levers right in front of his chest. He is strapped into a harness so his movements move the whole machine. He looks so tiny in that thing, like a doll trapped in a furnace. There is a loudspeaker horn sticking out the side of the helmet. When he talks, his voice sounds all metallic and loud, booming across 20 meters of foggy sand. Giant, 10 years. I spent 10 years building this thing. I did it without even knowing you were coming. I built this to fight a god I knew would show up eventually. And here you are. I don't say a word. I am just busy scanning the machine. I am figuring it out. The legs are pistons. The arms? More pistons. It has got two short barrels on each shoulder, aimed high enough to blast a giant right in the face. That boiler in the torso runs the whole show. Probably got a coal bed underneath it. Steam is puffing out of small vents on the back of the shoulders and the calves. That cockpit is reinforced too. This whole thing is the work of a man who has obsessed over every single joint and bolt for 10 years with zero outside input. I drop my sword into a guard stance. I keep my voice steady, making sure it carries through the fog without actually screaming. King Carton, tell me one thing before we get into it. Why did you start building this 10 years ago? What did you know? He lets out a dry little laugh inside that helmet. 10 years back, one of my scouts came home from the northern mountains with a wild story. He had been through the high passes into a country no Blastorian had set foot in for 100 years. He brought back a chunk of old stone with some ancient writing on it. It said a giant would fall from the sky onto this island and change everything. Said the people who weren't ready would basically get eaten by those who were. The scout died from his wounds the same week he got back. I burned his report and told nobody. Then I hit the workshop and started building. I didn't know which side this giant would be on. I didn't know when either. I just knew I was not going to be the king caught with his pants down. That is why I built this. Why I am here. I wasn't waiting for you specifically, giant. I was waiting for any giant. And the second Lilliputania told my spies about you, I knew you were the one I had been waiting for. I think about that for a second. There is no madness in his voice, no rage, just ready. Dude sounds like a nerd geeking out over his own science project. Honestly, he's actually ready for this. Homie's way more prepared than I'd ever be. First time on this trash island that I actually respect the guy trying to kill me. My bad, it's gotta be this way, I tell him. He goes, same here, kid. Catch these hands. Then he lets the cannons rip. I dive right. The first blast whizzes past my ear so close I can feel the heat. Sketchy. Second shot clips my shoulder straight fire. My mouth tastes like I just sucked on a penny, but I'm still in the game. I charge him like you'd rush a guy holding a piece when you only got a blade. Pure adrenaline. I swing for his right arm, putting every ounce of my weight into a massive chop at his robot elbow. Clang. The steel hits the joint and my sword just snaps like 2/3 of it just flies off. Great. Now I'm holding a jagged little metal nub. The rest of my gear is chilling in the dirt. He swings that massive right arm straight at my ribs. That giant metal fist hits me, and suddenly I'm flying. I land in the soggy sand 5 meters away, coughing up my soul. I'm gasping for air, totally wrecked. My armored coat saved me once, but that's its limit. It won't work twice. He's stomping through the fog while my broken blade sits there mocking me. I scramble to my knees. Boom, he fires the shoulder cannons again. One shot slams into my shoulder plate, crushing it into my muscle. I can feel my ribs bending in ways ribs definitely shouldn't. The second one's a total whiff. I'm back on my feet just as he closes the last few meters. He's winding up for a big one. I can hear the steam hissing in the shoulder like a mad snake. Suddenly, he blasts a cloud of white steam right into my eyes. I'm straight up blind. Everything's just hot and white. No machine, no sand, zero visibility, just pain. Out of nowhere, a heavy iron fist clocks me right in the jaw. Back on the ground. Mouth's full of blood and one tooth is definitely wobbly. My ears are ringing like crazy, same vibe as after the bombs dropped. The fog clears a bit, Carton standing over me like a final boss, but his hand looks different now. His hand literally folds back, and this massive steam-powered hammer slides out. Overkill? Much? It's a giant iron block the size of a fridge, and I can hear the piston charging up. He's about to turn my head into a pancake. I've got maybe 1 second. One eye's half open, mouth's bleeding, and suddenly I see it the whole machine, the way a pro like Alan would. I see the steam hoses running from the chest to the shoulders. two big ribbed tubes just hanging there. They've got armor on them for the most part, but then I spot it. Right where they pop out of the boiler casing, there's a gap. Just a small, unarmored spot about a hand-width wide so the pipes can actually move. It's right there on his right side, totally exposed. Carton built this thing to fight giants, not to be picked apart by a nerd. He never expected to square up against someone who actually knows how the gear works. I'm still clutching that broken sword nub, don't even remember grabbing it, honestly. I dive left just as that hammer comes crashing down. The hammer smacks the sand right where my head was a tenth of a second ago. Water and dirt fly everywhere, and the suit jerks forward. When it tips forward, the shoulder drops and that hose stretches out perfectly right in front of my face. I jam the broken blade right into that gap. It goes in smooth. Wet steel versus a brass mesh hose, no contest. I punch straight through, and a jet of high-pressure steam screams out like a tea kettle from hell. The whole right side of the machine just disappears into a white, scalding cloud of mist. The right arm just dies. It's limp. I roll away from the heat, scrambling through the sand. That right arm is just dangling there like it's taking a nap. He's only got one left. Inside the cockpit, Carton's yanking the right lever with everything he's got. But the thing's totally dead. I see his face through the visor. He goes from shocked to thinking to oh crap in 2 seconds flat. He finally stops fighting the lever. Game over, man. He's staring at me through that slit in his helmet, stone cold, like nothing I've ever seen. Took you 1 second, he mutters. 1 second to find the glitch in the machine. The megaphone voice ain't bragging anymore. It's small, barely there. 10 years, he says. I spent 10 years on this. 1 second to wreck it. Because you're a gearhead, and I totally forgot I was building this thing against someone who actually knows how it works. I drag myself up. Man, everything hurts like hell. I spit some blood and a stray tooth into the dirt. Drop it, Carton. We're done. He stares at me for a beat, then finally pops the harness inside that cockpit. Straps hit the floor as he hops out of the rig. He crawls over to the glass front and clicks the lock from the inside. The glass swings wide like a door. There he is, just standing in the mouth of that trashed-out hunk of junk. Just a tiny old guy in glasses, white beard, hands covered in oil, looking up at this massive, bloody, bruised-up giant. Finish it, giant. I deserve it. Nah. He blinks behind those lenses. Nope, I tell him again. You're gonna do something way different, Carton. You're coming across this whole island with me. You're gonna ride on my shoulder through the pass and stand right on top of my wall. And then, you're gonna help me rip that wall down brick by brick. Then we're building a bridge where it used to be. A real deal bridge through the central pass. A straight shot from Blastoria over to Lilliputania. Wide enough for carts to pass each way. Wide enough for folks to walk together without having to duck. Our lands are gonna be one again. Just like before your great-great-grandpa and Phelo's kid forgot how to play nice. And the guy designing this whole bridge? That's gonna be you. Carton just stands there in the cockpit, frozen. The fog's finally lifting. I can barely see the cliffs behind him. Then he just collapses. Sits right there in the open jaw of his mech and buries his greasy face in his hands. And he starts sobbing. It's not loud or anything, just this heavy, wet sound that doesn't stop. It ain't about losing. He isn't scared, either. 3 months on this rock and I know what real crying sounds like. He's crying because for 10 years, he's been hauling this heavy crap around in his soul that he couldn't drop. And I just gave him the green light to let it go. His body just doesn't know how to handle that yet. I lay my hand on the sand, palm up. He just crawls in without even looking at me. I lift him up to my shoulder and tuck him into the leather pouch I made for Pip, but Pip ain't riding today. Carton just curls into a ball in there, face still hidden in his hands. I turn west, leaving the beach behind, and start the long haul across the island. 2 days. No breaks. I crashed for 2 hours on night 2 against a rock, Carton still tucked in my pouch, then kept on moving. I cleared the eastern hills, pushed through the central pass. I hit the bend where my wall stands and haul myself up the eastern side in one slow, careful move. The second my head pops over the top, a whole mile of tiny people on the ledge see me alive. They see the little guy in my shoulder pouch. And then, the whole damn wall just explodes. No other way to say it. The noise all those Lilliputanians make isn't a cheer. It's way bigger than that. It's the sound a whole kingdom makes when it's been holding its breath for 2 days and finally lets it rip. It hits the air like this massive wave, not quite a song, not quite a word. I'll hear that sound forever. Captain Rain is up there on the main battery, saluting with both hands like a total boss. Alan pulls her pipe out and actually laughs, first time ever, while her hand shakes like crazy trying to light the match. The high priest is down on his knees in his white gear, face buried right in his sleeve. Pip is sprinting along the top of the wall toward me, those little legs moving as fast as they can go. I drop my right hand down and he runs straight into my palm. I hoist him up to my other shoulder. He climbs onto my shirt next to Carton's pouch and hugs my neck for dear life hard as any 12-year-old could hug a tree. I sit on the wall with my legs swinging over the edge and let the whole kingdom just stare for a while. Later that night, After we're fed, and I'm patched up and the docs fussed over Carton because our rules say guests are guests, the four of us are just chilling around a small fire on my hill right outside the city gates. Me, Alan, Pip, and Carton sitting in a tiny chair Alan's crew carved in an hour set on the stone table. We spent all night talking about the bridge, the road, and the pass. We're debating which Blastorian gearheads need to head over first. Then we flip the script and pick which Lilliputian smiths go back. Carton's totally gassed, but he's still talking with his hands, doing that jerky engineer dance people do when they're building stuff. I'm just watching the guy across from me, thinking how I almost ended him this morning, and now we're basically BFFs paving a street together. That's what winning looks like when you stop rushing slow and steady. Exactly like that vibe I caught on the wall a week back. The fire dips low and Carton suddenly goes ghost. He stares right at me, looking massive. Yo, big man, I gotta level with you. This should have come out back on the beach, but honestly, it'd be shady to stay quiet now. So, spill it. I told you how a scout found a rock in the northern peaks 10 years ago with some ancient tagging on it. That part wasn't cap, but I didn't mention who actually did the carving. See, there is a third set of people on this rock. They're legends, older than Lilliputania or Blastoria, basically older than when we were all just one tribe before everything went south. They live past the main mountains, tucked behind a range so high, even our own scouts won't touch it. They've been chilling on this island since our grandfathers' grandfathers were just kids. They never left. We all played it off like some spooky campfire story, but it's real. I'm dead still, and Pip's paralyzed on my shoulder. They knew the legend of the giant way before us. Honestly, I think they're the ones who wrote it. I put my machine together thinking I was prepping for some big dude falling from the sky into a world that wasn't ready. I was way off. Big guy, I don't think these third stringers just had a hunch you'd show up. I'm betting they built something to reel you in. You didn't just wreck here by accident. They summoned you for some hidden agenda I can't even begin to guess. I stay quiet for a long beat. Then, I look up. The fire sits between me and the gang, but past the flames and the city lights, way up in the frozen north, something is lighting up the sky. It's no sunset. The sun checked out hours ago and not in that direction. This light is climbing up from the wrong side of the world. It isn't red or orange, it's this creepy, pale yellow-white like a giant light bulb, except way more massive and totally flickering. The light pulses once, twice, then again. Slow, heavy beats, just like a heart. I never caught that before tonight, or maybe it just wasn't there until now. Alan's eyes follow mine right to it. She pulls the pipe out of her mouth and says, "That's new." I ask how new, but she's clueless since she's been at the wall for 30 days. I haven't glanced north in a month, but I would have spotted that. I just stare at the glow. Pulse. 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 Alan, how long until we run into these North Country people? She stays silent, just watching the sky flicker with me. Big guy, you've been here 3 months and basically trashed the status quo. Whether they show up in 3 months or 3 years isn't our call. It depends on how long they've been lurking in the shadows. Judging by that light show, my guess is they've been keeping tabs on us for a long, long time. Pip is frozen on my shoulder and Carton's finally shut up. I just keep staring at that pulsing light over the mountains. Beat, 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 like the heart of something huge and way too far away. It's finally waking up and realizing it has a visitor. I tighten my grip on the busted hilt of my sword. The fire pops.